Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to a new episode of the X Button, Season 4, Episode 33. I am your host, Alejandro, and making his second appearance in the show after he first guested all the way back in January and coming back for also pretty similar topics of discussion. Bryan Finck, also from Season Gaming and Super Magazine, I think it was called.
Super Jump, yes.
Super Jump Magazine.
Yeah.
How are you doing,
Magazine
Bryan?
as well, yes, sir.
And there's the dogs.
Yeah, there they are.
It has started. How are you doing, Bryan?
I am good, man. Thank you for having me back. It's been too long, so I appreciate you bringing me back in. It's a little hard to find time to record around here with all the craziness, so I appreciate you working with my schedule and all that, and I'm ready to talk some state of play once again.
Absolutely. And what's interesting is that you have a hurricane coming to you, right? Like the Hurricane Helene, I think it's called.
Yes.
Or Helene?
Yeah, she's on the way. Yeah, it's kind of brewing down there in the Gulf, and the Gulf is like a bathwater temperature these days, so it's just rocket fuel for a hurricane. So
okay.
Fortunately, it's going to stay west of us, I think. So I think we're probably just going to get some tropical storm force stuff. But
okay.
You know, that's why I wanted to record tonight, just in case things get a little crazy tomorrow night. So
yes, I would rather sometimes
hoping.
I would rather sometimes record earlier because of that, because you never know. My podcast co-host, he used to live in Louisiana, and he had to suffer Hurricane Ida in 2021. So I remember having to deal with that with him. So I totally understand. Like,
yeah, they've gotten it worse over the years than we have, man. Lately, it seems like they're all going into the Gulf, which is fine. You know, we had a bad one a couple of years ago, but yeah, they're getting more than their share for sure. So.
Oh yeah, well, hopefully nothing bad happens once like that makes landfall and maybe goes all the way north. Who knows? But
yeah, I just want it to go away, man. That's all. This one's going fast, so that's all we can hope for. Is it just doesn't stick around.
Oh yeah. So yeah, then hopefully at least we can get at least a couple hours of to not have to worry about that, other than some of the dogs getting worried.
That's the joy of video games, man. You just forget about the rest of the world and just lose yourself in it. So it's
kind of like the theme of my channel. The channel of this podcast is called Escape, as a name for escape.
Yep.
Just
exactly
because
that's what they are, man.
In life, you just need an escape, or at least for all the nonsense that surrounds us. But yeah, just a reminder that this is the X Bottom Podcast, our gaming podcast that posts every Fridays from 10 a.m. onwards, God willing, available on the YouTube channel Escape Gaming, as well as most audio services around the world, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and the like. You can find links in the RSS feed at tinyurl.com/escapegaming. If you enjoy our show, give us a like and subscribe. So, time to talk about the things that we've been playing, Bryan. So you had the honor, I was jealous, because you're the one, you call it first, of being the one that got to review Astrobot almost 3 weeks ago now, which is wild. Obviously, you liked it quite a bit. You gave it a 10 out of 10. That's a score that I absolutely, as a game, I totally 100% am like back in that. 3 weeks away, like since then, how you feel about Astrobot?
I still love it just as much. I haven't changed a bit. I'm actually still kind of going through and wrapping up. I do want to get the platinum, and I never get platinums. I like have maybe 2 or 3 platinums in my life, just ones that I've gotten, but I've never really chased them. But one, it's going to be an easier platinum. You know, I mean, it's easier to get. And it's something that I want to do, because it's not just like, here, go everywhere and touch everything and, you know, whatever. It's literally, you know, find the bots, do the things. And there's just so much more. I realized the other day I was listening to a spoiler cast, and I'm like, wow, there are things I didn't know. So I think I've probably got about 40 or so bots left to grab. You know, 1 or 2 more Lost Galaxy levels, that kind of thing. But you know, I mean, it's fantastic, man. My opinion has not changed in the slightest. I love it. I think it is an absolutely fantastic game. That is a me game through and through. I mean, it is just like I said in the review, I feel like it was made for me, not just for people like me, but in general for me, because I mean, so many of those games just speak to me. And I some of those, I mean, I couldn't have told you what Devil Dice was to save my life. But you know, so many of those games are like, you know, I'm doing the Leo DiCaprio, you know, pointing at the screen meme, right? Exactly, you know. And so many of those games I've played and mean so much. I literally yelled out loud when I found Ellie. Like, that is my favorite. The Last of Us is my favorite IP ever of anything. And so I've just yelled out loud when I found it. It was awesome. And that's the kind of thing that I love about that. And even some of the new stuff I'm still finding, new things that are happening, the new levels. I'm constantly in awe. That game does so many things that I love. They're just big levels. You can see all the way across them. Verticality is just my thing in games, especially in platformers. It hits all the right buttons. And I could not love it more. It's just so good. So good. And I don't see that opinion changing ever.
Yeah, I had the chance to go back to both Super Mario Odyssey and Mario 3D World, because it's kind of like I got vibes when I played Astro, where I was like, this reminds me of this, so let me just go back and try this, because obviously there was
people felt like that.
Yeah, a lot of people were trying to pit both games together in a way, or trying to use Mario Odyssey and the other one to kind of like downplay what kind of like what Astrobot did. And I went to try that, and I'm like, Astrobot plays better, feels better in the
I would hope so. You know,
controller.
we got 10 years of game design, you know, improvements and knowledge to do. So yeah, you would think so.
Yeah, so that's why I'm like, no, what Team Asobi did as a game, like as a platform, a 3D platformer, is like pretty impressive. Like what they did, because it's like they always had the chops, obviously, ever since Astro's Rescue Mission, which I never played because I didn't have a VR1, and I know a lot of people say that every time that they play Rescue Mission is like a very transformative experience, like almost borderline religious experiencing like platformer work in VR. And obviously Astro's Playroom was pretty excellent in the as the pack-in introduction of the DualSense in the PS5. It was like that was basically my first taste of like, oh wow, this is like really good. I kind of wish they did like a full game out of this. And I would say that they have now established themselves in a way that now I feel like if Nintendo comes out with another 3D Mario, it's not just gonna be, I don't feel the same way that they're just gonna come in and clean up, because now I've seen a direct competitor do something that meets and surpasses it in certain aspects. And I think also one thing that I love what you mentioned about your review is like Asteroid is also kind of like that weird game that even though it's not choice based, it's your history with PlayStation that kind of determines like the way that game is gonna hit for you, and everyone kind of will have like a different experience. And that resonates with me both in super positive ways and also negative ways at the same time. Yeah, I kind of tease you this in the like just in the pre-show, kind of say how I hold two opinions about Astrobot, where I feel like as a game, 10 out of 10 game, like I stand by that. I feel that in my bones. As a game that celebrates the PlayStation brand, that shows me all this IP, current or previous or dead, that's there, and then kind of like ask you to celebrate it in a way. It can also kind of bring into focus like what is your current relationship with PlayStation, or what was your relationship with PlayStation. It kind of like brought into mind that my current relationship with PlayStation when it comes to their first party, or even the way the company has acted in its demeanor towards previous IP, or how they're like driving certain IP into the ground by releasing stuff that may or may not be necessary. We're definitely going to talk about that in the
surely what could you be talking about? I have no idea.
The state of play. So it was kind of like I know there were some people saying that instead of feeling like it's a celebration, it's kind of like a funeral procession. Where
I saw a headline that said that too, and I'm like, okay, I can sort of get it.
Yeah, I can kind of see it, but it's also kind of like brought me like into focus where I'm starting to remember like when did I fall in love with PlayStation, or what were the things that really made me fall in love with these things. And it actually put into focus why I actually have loved this year of the PS5 more than any other year that we've gotten with the console, despite the fact that this is historically like an incredibly quiet year for PlayStation Studios and Sony first party.
On first party, absolutely.
Yeah, they only had 2 games, one that flamed out like catastrophically, like historically, and obviously this one that was like pretty excellent, but that was just that was just those 2. But then like when you think about PS1 and PS2, so many of those franchises that were born on the system, Tomb Raider, Resident Evil, Crash Bandicoot, Spyro, when you start to think of Devil May Cry eventually in PS2 era, or like the Team Eco games with Sony Japan and all that, it's like it reminded me the places that made me fall in love with the brand. And when I know that a bunch of those things are no longer PlayStation kind of like associated because they either went third party, or a bunch of that stuff has just been dead, or we have not seen like or maybe not modernly available, then I start kind of like I put then my eyes towards the brand that put out this game to celebrate itself as a brand, and I start thinking of what have you done for me lately, or okay, you had an executive said that you barely have any IP while also releasing a game that shows the treasure trove of the IP you still have and also used to have. And obviously you accept that because you were able to put that here. So then it's like it makes me feel very complicated about this being like a celebration, because I feel the timing of when this game is releasing, obviously 30th anniversary, perfect timing for it to release. This game also came out at around the same time where Conquer died in 11 days. They're trying to sell us a $700 PlayStation 5 Pro that then they try to counteract with the nostalgia member berries of like, here is the 30th anniversary of the console, but then they're gonna give you remasters of games that you can perfectly play right now already at 60 frames in your console. So it's like when you start like thinking about that, like the celebratory nature of like Astrobot, like I know some people say it's like icky, but to me it's like brings me more complicated feelings towards kind of like because it's trying to ostensibly celebrate the brand, but I also feel like I shouldn't be the one that also dings Astrobot for doing that.
Yeah,
it's just kind of like
I don't think you can ding the game itself, because you can enjoy it. To me at least, I can enjoy a game even if I don't particularly jive with the subject matter, right? Like if it's a great game to play, it could be about, I don't know, humanoid toilets. I don't care. If it's a fun game to play, I can get past the extraneous stuff, you know? I mean, because at some point I used to play games that had zero story. You know, so again, why is the story that important? So yeah, I mean, I certainly get it. You can't ding that for things that you might disagree with it that aren't about the game so much, but I certainly get the feeling that you're having as well. I mean, it is tough to say or to see those characters and know that you're never going to get another game, right? You're never going to get another one of these, or you know, whatever. Now again, this is Sony, so you never know, but you know, yeah, it is hard to see that and be like, you know, oh well, there's that character I loved. Am I ever going to see it again? I get it.
Yeah, and then another thing that I also kind of have complicated feelings about the way like a lot of critics, not you, but a lot of kind of like the general conversation that came out from Astro about how it was, this was the game that came in to save the year. And this is another one where I'm like, speak for yourselves, dudes. Like I've eaten so well this year that everyone that tries to sell me on 2024 as this weird like bland or dry year for gaming, I'm like, I feel like I'm more stuck with games that I want to play or that I even have the time to play, that had saying that this one game is the one that finally is releasing something. I'm like, you have to be like an ostrich, like hiding your head in the sand to say that there's been nothing this year, when I feel like I've had so much.
Oh, absolutely. And I'm the same way. I mean, we have had a bunch of games that were fantastic. And again, I get it. I can see both ways, because there are people that are attached to Sony because of the first place or the first person studio or the first party studio.
Yeah,
so
the first party place.
Like that's great if that's your fandom, then okay. But you, as you said, you're being an ostrich. Your head's in the sand because you're missing a ton of really great stuff. And if you can look at PlayStation 5 this year and before and say, you know, okay, there's still nothing there, then you're just being disingenuous, because there are great third-party games and second-party games, games that wouldn't exist without Sony. Even if they didn't come from an internal studio, these games wouldn't exist without Sony, whether it's marketing help or whether it's, you know, development help and, you know, all this stuff. They wouldn't exist. So you can look at those games and say, like you said, this has been a bad year, when it 100% has not. But if your identity and your fandom is tied up in those first-party studios, then yeah, you have a problem, one, and two, you're missing out. So, but I mean, but here's the thing, is everybody knows that those games are there, right? You'd have to be lying to yourself to think that there isn't an Uncharted game in store, that there isn't another Last of Us game, or you know, there's going to be another God of War, or even if it's not, the space game or whatever it is Corey's been working on all these years, you know, at Santa Monica. These games are there. Sony has been, I've linked this, I've always said this since it happened, I link a lot of Sony's silence back to what happened with The Last of Us Part 2. You put a game out there, you're putting a target on your back. So I can't blame them for doing what they did with Astro and saying, oh, here's a game, it's coming out in 3 months. And yeah, you don't get the hype cycle, but you also don't get the vitriol and the hate cycle either.
And who cares about hype cycles anymore? Because like, I look at it this way, like, yeah, Astrobot, like it came out, it was announced in the last state of play that we didn't do a recording because of timing and all that, and it wasn't that exciting either. That's the one that spent 15 minutes on Concord, which in hindsight is even funnier when you think about that. But they really announced that game and put it out in 2 months, and it's the highest rated game of the year. It didn't need a full-on hype cycle. And then everyone dares tell me that showcase from Xbox from the summer, that everyone like praises to high heaven as this excellent showcase and all that. I'm like, from first party, what was the new announcement?
Right.
What was the new announcement? Gears. Then everything else that they were showing there, things that they had already like announced years ago. Had been like long in development. And it's like, when you really think about this, it's like they're still parroting things from back then, because that's where development is. That's where we are in development now. These games are just gonna take forever, and that's something that I came into a relationship with the disappointing showcase from PlayStation from last year, because it was like we were hoping, okay, here comes the next roadmap for next. What we're gonna give us, at least from the games that we know you have made your name in, and it was like you announced 0 of those games. It's like we just got to see gameplay of Spider-Man, and that was it.
Yeah,
and
which we'd already seen, of course,
exactly. That was already announced, like, in the showcase prior 2 years before. So then that's when it started to hit me. It's like, oh, we're now hitting at that point where these games are really taking forever to make, huh? Then the Insomniac leak, where we heard of how much these games are costing now. So it's like they need to start to put into my mind of like, man, for us to start getting these first party games that it was like the PlayStation made themselves known for now, is like you have to now get into the mindset that those are unicorns now. You're not gonna get them often. They're not gonna come out at a quick clip, because those days where in 2011 you could get an Uncharted, an Infamous, a Killzone, and a Resistance, and a Little Big Planet, all like in one calendar year, and 2 years separated from their previous sequels. Those days are gone.
Oh yeah,
it takes way longer.
You can't make a game, no matter the size of your team. It doesn't matter whatever resources you throw at. You literally can't make a game that fast anymore. I mean, you're never going to see an entire series or trilogy of a game come out on one system lifecycle. It's just never going to happen again, like you said.
Which is so sad. Imagine. Can you believe we actually got trilogies in like one console cycle before that? That's so wild. It's really so wild to think about, but that's kind of where we are. And then that's why I feel like the PS5, if there's something that I've really like felt the strongest with the PS5 specifically, is out of the modern systems, the most that has the PS2 energy, where PS2 was first party didn't really exist back in PS2. It was mostly Sony Japan and Sony Santa Monica was built like later in that gen, and then a bunch of the studios that we now know are first party were kind of second parties before, like Naughty Dog, Sucker Punch, Insomniac, and things like that. But it was like, what made the PS2 one of the greatest console systems of all time back then? Is it because it was a treasure trove? Because so many variety of games,
everything was on it,
was there. And I'm feeling like Sony now realized that, okay, people know what kind of games we make. The expectations of what they want from those games has grown considerably. We cannot scale back, even though I would argue they could, because it's like they like push the envelope, especially visually, so far that I feel like they could remain there and it will still like be farther away from the competition. But they feel like they have to kind of keep climbing. But now it's like, in order to fill up the space, they gotta go for the second parties, find like partnerships, like maybe money had here and there, or associate games in the system. And that's why I'm like, when you look at what was exclusive for PlayStation this year, and it still is, this was the most robust year they've had, which is like really wild. So that's why I'm like, well, in a lot of those games, that's where I found my enjoyment on. And then that's where I'm like, I know that I will always play a first party release whenever they come in, because they always kind of feel like an event. But now I know that I'm not just hinging my enjoyment of that ecosystem in there, because an ecosystem is full of things. And if you stop being pedantic, you can really see that. That's why like to me, like Astrobot being like the only like really first party game of consequence this year, cool that we got it. But it wasn't something that I was like yearning, because I was like, I've been like busy. I spent 335 hours platinuming Final Fantasy VII Rebirth. So it's like,
that's insane for the record. I mean, God bless you, man. But wow, that is nuts. I can't imagine spending that many hours with a game.
Yeah, I love that game so much that I wanted to give it the platinum.
Good for you, man. That's amazing.
So yeah,
I will say one thing about Sony, as far as we were talking about, you can't get multiple games of a series or something like that. You absolutely could. If Sony wanted to make smaller games, but they are just not interested anymore. I guarantee you there's a conversation somewhere in Japan about, if this game is forecast to sell less than 4 million copies, we don't want to make it. You could have multiple games that take a year or two to make, and they'd sell 500,000 copies or 1 million copies, and people might love them, but it's not making money for Sony the way they want it. They just don't. They want that massive amount of money. They want live service money, which we see where that's taking them. But they want that kind of money. They want Fortnite money, or they want God of War, or whatever kind of money. They want to make giant chunks of money. They don't want this little chip damage money where it's coming in, $20-$30. They don't want to release those games. They could.
Yeah.
And I think that they're trying to have their cake and eat it too, which is why we're getting so many of these remasters. Is they're cheap to produce. Their people are going to buy them.
And they need money.
And then they're just going to keep printing money, and that's fine. And I do think you could make original games that way too. It is possible. Take an indie developer, right? Those games take 6, 8, 10 years to make, because it's 1 or 2 people. If you took an indie developer with a good idea and threw a little bit of extra money in teams at them, you could have them making 2 or 3 games a year, or 2 or 3 games, or a game every 2 or 3 years. And maybe that deletes the spirit of the indie scene, which it probably does, but that's fine. But that is my point, is like, you could, if Sony really wanted to chase that down and give people more games, they could and they would. But that's not what they're interested in. That's not the game they're playing anymore. As Colin and some other people say, they're Apple, they're Amazon right now. They feel like they are on top of the world, and they want to do what they want to do, and they don't have to do any other different way. And who's to tell them they're wrong when, you know, a game like Ragnarok sells however many copies, right? They know they've got people hanging on their every word. Like you said, they don't need a hype cycle. Anything they say is an instant hype cycle anymore. So who's to tell them they're wrong? It sucks as fans, but at least they're not talking to and doing interviews with GQ anymore. You know, they're actually a little bit better post Jim Ryan.
I still want to believe that it's still kind of like it's a freight ship that takes forever to kind of turn around. Because
it does.
We still haven't seen like the post Jim Ryan era kind of like take hold, but I'm really hoping that it's like it has changed tenor with like just the fact that they're there at TGS when they haven't been there in 5 years, which coincidentally,
that's a good sign.
5 years is like how long Jim Ryan's tenure was, because he came into power in 2019. So it's like we can kind of start seeing who was the one that maybe was like, no, let's just pull back because we're gonna just become this like ethereal company that is not gonna talk, but somehow like everything that they've done, the opposite has turned out. It's like they don't talk, they're selling more, whereas Xbox will talk out of their butts everywhere.
And you know Sony's watching and seeing Phil step all over his words, and everything he says gets thrown back at him. They're like, why would we want to do this? Let's just shut up, be the anti Phil Spencer, and just be quiet, and our games are going to sell regardless. So why do I can't blame them for any of it. I don't have to like it, but I can't blame them for any of it.
Exactly. You can blame. I'm also not here to say that I like it either, because I've also felt that's a reason why I love my PlayStation. I have all my games are there. I love the trophy ecosystem and all that, but I also feel slightly slighted because it's like I'm there because, just like Phil Spencer said, it's like I made my investments in the key generation to make my investments, which was the PS4, Xbox One. So it's like I made my investments here and staying here. It's like I feel like I'm there because I invested, not because I want to be there. And I kind of wish that with the different tenor that we didn't have under Jim Ryan, I felt more like happy about the things where even when they announced the first party thing in the State of Play, that I saw a lot of people really, really like throwing their hands in celebration and all that. My reaction was cool, literally. That's what, and that's because of how I've been feeling about the brand. So I'm hoping that starts changing. Just the fact that they're there at TGS now is like, okay, that's a step. State of Plays have gotten better, because ever since they got Shawnee Benson, the lady with glasses, is like ever since they finally gave like a consistent face to the thing. Remember where we could never see faces before? It was just
a disembodied voice. It might have always been an AI voice, you know.
Exactly. So it's like now we're getting into that Nintendo Direct pocket that at least start putting people there. It's like State of Plays are still not consistently great, or it's like every time that you come in here, you either have to check expectations or you never know what to expect, and things like that. So that's why I'm like, the more they keep doing this, the more we start getting into patterns at the very least, because now I feel like everyone is, I don't know if it always feels funny. Everyone's like, when is Sony gonna talk? Look at the last 3 years. They talk at the exact same time every time. Either January or February, either May or June, or September. Like clockwork. They have not missed. So it's so funny that still people feel like they were never gonna hear from them, but it's because they didn't remain quiet in between all those times, unlike Xbox that talks out of their ass all the time. So it's just what a weird generation this has been, and how like easy they have just cleaned up and just kind of go. I feel like, to me, the PS5 Pro prize is like a perfect example of like, this is the result of where the generation is, where they don't feel threatened and they just want to extract more money because they can. We have heard, like you mentioned, Colin, and last time, do you hear do you listen to the episode he did with Moore's Law is Dead, the tech guy?
I'm about halfway through it, but I mean, I was thinking about that when you were just talking about it. Is it really that egregious, right? Like, is that $700 price? People, there is some sort of just mental block about anything. Once the price of anything hits $500, it's just, no, I'm sorry, just automatic rejection. And you got to look at it and see what you're getting for it. Do I need it? No. Do I think that the games can be appreciated until you actually sit down and play them? Probably not. So do I understand why people are freaking out? Yes, to some extent, but it shouldn't be about the price. At least not completely about the price. Is it necessary? Maybe, maybe not. There was always going to be a mid-gen refresh, just like there was for the PS Pro or PS4 Pro. But the insanity about the price is overblown, just like everything else these days. You know, it's
Yeah.
just, it's nuts. I agree.
To me, it's like, yeah, it's pricey, and I'm like, then I see how much people pay for iPhones and things like that, and I'm like,
Exactly.
just
Yeah.
shut up. It's like,
Yeah.
don't play call. And also, I'm like this, for the people that are so focused on higher and higher and higher fidelity, that was the end game, because that's how expensive it gets to get graphics like what you say you want.
Yeah.
So it's like,
well, yeah, think about what that machine that they are putting out for 700 would have cost if that is what they built in 2020. That would have been $1,000 machine. I mean, yes, that's what everybody wanted. You don't have to make that choice between fidelity and performance. And you've got the 2 terabyte. That's what everybody wanted. I want to be able to run 4K 60 with ray tracing and 2 terabytes of space. That's what everybody wanted in 2020.
Yeah,
but that would have been $1,000 machine.
Yeah, and PCs have tried to get that consistently 4K 60 and with the bells and whistle, because it's just not resolution. There's a bunch of stuff that goes into like what makes a game beautiful.
You're
like
right.
effects, ray tracing, lighting, like anti-aliasings and all that are also depending on machines. It's like that those machines that run those things that go about $2,000. So it's like, it's still like for that, it's still relatively cheap. Obviously, everyone knows what their financial situation will be with 700, all that. But I feel what I also find funny with what Moore's Law said is that based on the things that he knows that it is in this machine and what it can do, this thing could have also cost maybe like 600. But they're trying to now, they're now in the point that they just want to make margins out of this, out of every hardware, because that's where inflation has gotten us. That's where the post-COVID world is like, it's rare. It still, to me, blows my mind that the price of the console has not gone down, like officially. That's still wild.
It's actually going up. Like you've seen, it's gone up in some territories. I mean, they had that. It's very rare that they release the Pro, and we may still see that, but it is rare to see that it hasn't gone down 4 years in, and it may not go down at all with the Pro release. And that is rare. I don't know.
Yes, and I would still say that, ironically, for the price that the PS5 and the Series X are, the machines are still worth it. It's just kind of like
certainly,
this Super are like us. For people that tell me like this has been a very disappointing generation, I'm like, are you playing games at all? Like, are you playing games at all?
If you're using it as a Blu-ray drive, then sure, maybe that is disappointing. I understand.
Exactly. If that's the only thing you're using, but are you playing games at all? Have you tried going back to the old machines? How they feel? Yeah. That's kind of like Ian's from Season Gaming, or AIC. And he was mentioning that in Bitcast. It was like, for people that say that, it's like he likes to make the dare of like, plug in your base machines, plug them in, play for a little bit, and then go back to him and tell me that the experience is not significant. Like the quality of life of these new machines on both the PS5 and the Series X are such that you don't really think about it, because they made everything so smooth. It's like so smooth that you don't think about it, that then it feels like you have not gotten anything. But then when you go back, you really know. How do I know? I just replugged my PS3 because I wanted to play the old God of War games because they're not available, and trying to update that garbage is like, man, it's like, we have it so good now. Like the people.
I did the same thing a couple months ago because I wanted to play to get my muscle memory back before college football came out, and so I put it in. And the last college football was on the PS3, so I plugged in PS3 and played NCAA 12 on there. And I was surprised at how good it looked, because in my memory, of course, your memory always makes it look better than it actually does. I was surprised how good it looked. But I was not a fan, never was, and certainly not now, of the 6-axis controller. Man, that controller is such junk compared to everything now. The PS4, the DualSense, the DualShock 4, and then now the DualSense. I mean, it's night and day. Like, I don't even know what they were thinking.
How did our hands ever grab the DualShock, or even DualShock 1 and 2? Like, it blows my mind how tiny those controllers are.
Oh yeah.
That's what I find so funny, that I feel like if the PS5 and Xbox Series X generation is gonna be like defined by is that I feel like what we knew as generations is gotta change now, because it's like, I feel like now that developers absolutely understand that a clear-cut like generational refresh is just not sustainable with where costs are, and the install bases that they have. That's why like we had extended extended cross-generation period, because even with their deficiency, the PS4 and the Xbox One was still something that can work, and the mid-gen refresh allowed for that also. It meant that for people that got the mid-gen refresh, it meant that they still had many years to extract out of those machines. So it's like, and now we have the PS5 Pro. That thing is gonna still feel relevant even by the time the PS6 eventually comes in. So we just have to kind of get into that idea that those old days of like the clear cut, fresh start, and all that is just not financially feasible. So
and it's also, I think, to me, it's a part of the jumps are just much more evolutionary than revolutionary anymore, right? I mean, if you could not tell the difference in some cases between a late gen PS4 game and an early to mid gen PS5 game. In some cases, the PS4 games look better, not all of them. So you've got a situation now where you can't see this massive jump, but the jumps are going to come elsewhere, right? They're going to come with something like a DualSense or 3D audio or AI or graphical flourishes like ray tracing or something like that. So yeah, I mean, it's much cloudier when you're talking about we're going from a PS5 to a PS6. Now I don't know. We're gonna get GTA 6 next year, and that looks like a revolutionary jump from GTA 5. But not every game is made by Rockstar.
Yes, and not many games get a 12-year development cycle either.
Also that, and why would you go any faster with how GTA 5 still prints money? Now here's a question before we go off this. Because we're talking about Jim Ryan. Do you trust Herman Hulst to steer the ship?
I did until I read what happened with Concord.
Yeah, it seems like he was Concord's biggest fan, so that gave me a little bit of pause too.
Yeah, so that's why I'm like, and also the fact that Horizon is being pushed so incredibly hard to the point that even in Astrobot, spoiler people, Horizon was the last level.
Yeah.
So I've been the best for last, and then when I played Horizon, I was like, is this really the last level? I kind of felt. I was like, I could feel the Herman Hulst influence. I don't know why. and then especially when I heard, like, I knew the Lego Horizon game was coming. So I was like, okay, we got that. Obviously, we had heard of the Horizon Remastered 2 years ago when it was rumored back in 2022. And everyone didn't want to believe it. It's like, that's insane if that's actually even happens. And that was before he even kind of came forward. And now obviously it already exists. It's coming out later. It's in the state of play. That's something we're gonna mention. But it's like when you start to think the way that Horizon is just so forced down our throats.
Yeah.
And I like Horizon, but it's like it's now getting to the point. Yeah, but it's now getting to that point where when you really think about it, like how people really feel about that franchise, the way they're really shoving it toward like down our throats in a way, is like you're really forcing this, and it really feels like because it was your baby, that then it's like you're giving it special treatment when then you have Bloodborne. Poor Bloodborne still kind of like withering in the vine. Still,
there is something going on with that. Like someone somewhere in a position of power with a veto vote is like, no, this is not happening, because it's just beyond insane that hasn't happened yet. But yeah, I get it, and that's where a lot of people's frustrations on any remaster you ask for or that you put out now is going to be until you get Bloodborne. People are going to be like, no, I'm not doing it.
Yeah, and I think it's kind of like the thing of that. Again, like circling a little bit back to the Astrobot thing of them parading like all the IPs that we know that they have. Then when we know what are the things that they have made sure to remaster and all that, is like, you like doing remasters, you have all of this that you could be able to do it. So it's like so it's like I'm really hoping that maybe Herman, I'm hoping like what I'm thinking has happened is that, because I kind of went back on when when Herman announced Concord. Herman said that he found Firewalk Studios and Concord like early in 2021. May 2021 was when Jim Ryan in their like May financial said that their big goal was they were gonna do 12 live service games. I want to believe that like Herman saw something in Concord that then like that came in before the mandate of the live service things, and he was just trying to play ball with the boss at the time as CEO and be like, well, he said
what he wanted to do.
He wants 12 live service games, and I think I found one. That's kind of what I want to believe there. But it's like right now, it's like I feel like we need to see more games to see what's been greenlit or what's announced after the game that got announced at the State of Play that is in your background. So we have to kind of see like what the trajectory is what's kind of like announced and how things come up before I can deliver a definitive do I trust, because before we heard about the behind the scenes like details we got last week of Concord, I was still like, Herman is our guy. I'd rather have him than Jim Ryan, because Jim Ryan I did not like at all, because he was so, I am playing the latest exclusive game from Insomnia Games, a Ratchet and Clank.
He was a walking marketing press release. Yeah, absolutely.
Yes, it's like that's when you know it's like he was just not genuine at all. And I know at least Herman was genuine. Like I remember the State of Play from January when he had Kojima next to him. He was like, I was like, oh yeah, I was highly encouraging Kojima to do the game that we knew a lot of people wanted from him, and here it is. And when he announced Vincent, so it's like that was the Herman that was, at least I know he's a gamer. But then it's like now I was like, this Conquer thing is like has shaken me a little bit, and I feel it will take a showcase of him kind of like coming forward to at least present us a vision. Because that's the thing, we don't have a vision right now. Like, what's the future? It's like we're just kind of like going piece by piece because they can afford to go piece by piece, because it's like it hasn't affected them yet. They can still kind of like hold it with their time. Rumors are that they might do something for the 30th anniversary in December.
I could see that. I mean, the old Sony would have, right? You know, the old Sony would have had a would have had PSX. A PSX or something, you know, for that. But yeah, I would like to believe that that is the case. And I do think, if nothing else, Herman is a better face for the company than Jim, just because he can communicate. You know, being a leader is, you know, 50% being the leader and being, you know, the right person for that job, and then 50% of being able to communicate your vision.
Amen.
And whether it's a vision for a country or a company or, you know, whatever, you know, if you can't make people see what you see and believe in your company, then you're not the right guy for that position. And Herman, I think, is much more personable. I think he's just literally not a, you know, a walking press release. And, you know, he can actually communicate with some charisma and make people believe. And, you know, is that going to happen? Maybe. You would think so. You know, and how much he does that, and how much he, you know, does like the Phil Spencer thing, getting in front of people and talking, and how much will tell us a lot about who's actually driving the ship. Was Jim Ryan being, you know, autopiloted by like a robot by Sony corporate, or, you know, or is you know, was it really up to him? And so I think we'll see where that really lies when we see the next year or two with Herman.
Yeah,
because coming out of PS5, going towards the PX6 version or console, and then, you know, also we are heading into years where we're going to have a lot of first party stuff to talk about. So how he handles that and what that looks like is going to be very telling.
Yeah, and that's why I'm like, right now, like, this is a year where I can't really blame anything, because this is the year that he took over as CEO. You cannot judge a CEO's tenure like within its first year.
Oh yeah, a power transition like that is extremely traumatic for a company. I mean,
exactly,
it is.
Especially one that's as sudden as it was announced, like that one. So because remember, it was like around this time, literally, we heard the news that he was out.
Yeah,
I still had the thumbnail when I celebrated when I heard that he was out. So I'll never forget that day.
I know. I've written those PlayStation needs a new face, you know, not Jim Ryan articles. I know. I've been there. I understand completely. I was the same way.
Yeah, so that's why I'm like, 2025 is gonna. I think 2025 is gonna be where it starts for me. Where I'm like, okay, we gotta start finding out a vision, because right now, your inertia is so strong that you're being carried so hard. Like right now, though, I feel like now they have set a cadence where they have announced something, or at least solidified something big, first party, or at least brand associated with them in every state of play now. January, Death Stranding 2, and like solidifying that's a 2025 game.
Yeah.
In May, they gave us Astrobot out in like 2 months. Now we got this other game that I want to save, that it's like now out in 2025. So it's like now we're getting into that pattern where like maybe now they're getting into that pattern of like getting so close to release, because they understand, because Nintendo has shown them. Hold your stuff. Get them as close to the finish line as possible, announce them, and then you're gonna be feeding them, because it's like this idea that you need long hype cycles, get out of here. It's like it's not needed. So,
it's gonna be very interesting to see, is that same Astrobot type you know, lead in going to be with Ghost? I mean, are we going to see that in January, February? I would be shocked. I can't imagine them releasing a tentpole first party studio game anywhere other than, you know, like a major, like the fall. Like I feel like that's probably you know, a Christmas game. Like are we still a year away from that? I don't know.
I feel a year away is more than enough time to kind of like give you a lead time, because it's better than the 3 years. That's kind of like what because think about when Ghost of Tsushima originally was announced. It was at the Paris Games Week of 2017. That was like October 2017. We got that game the summer of 2020, so that was like 3 years. Last of Us Part 2, like on the final PSX that had a conference in 2016. That was the last announcement. Then we got that game until June 2020. That was like 4 years. So it's like I'm used to the long kind of like hype cycle with Sony, and it feels like they have kind of flipped the script. And a lot of people that became fans of PlayStation during the PS4 era that lived through the long life cycles, now they feel like so shaken over the fact that they're not playing that game anymore.
Good for Sony, bad for fans in a lot of ways.
Exactly.
And that's fine. But like you said, we have to get used to that new reality. And it's probably better, right?
A better reality.
I think it's better for fans in the long run, but it's going to be a very tough transition. I'm with you and every other PlayStation person out there. It's been so frustrating just getting nothing but silence from Sony for 4 years. or
Yeah.
3 years. I guess you got to give them the launch year, right?
Yeah, because then
We
like
talked about that.
yeah, because then like I have to like be replaying stuff that had came out before, like how I'm playing God of War Ragnarok right now again, because I played it once back at launch and now I'm replaying it. And this was a game that I absolutely adored back in like 2022. This was my game of the year in 2022, even with Elden Ring. I hated the ending of Elden Ring, so that's why I was like, at the time I was like, I am not giving it my personal game of the year, because I posted it in our chat.
I remember.
I have proof of flipping the file.
I remember.
I hated it. So it was like Ragnarok wasn't my game, but it was then you play Ragnarok, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So and I assume also 2018 you played. So I adored 2018 to the point that I replayed it like 5 times. Even I played it again this year, but Ragnarok I only played once. Okay. And having played it once, I gave it game of the year, but then playing so many other games like throughout the time that I was like, man, this is doing stuff better than this. Or at least my mind was like, oh man, I like the level design of Jedi Survivor better than Ragnarok.
Jedi Survivor was excellent. Yes, it was.
Yes, I'm liking the spectacle of Final Fantasy 16 better than the spectacle of God of War Ragnarok. And then I was like, I have no desire to replay God of War Ragnarok. So did I really like God of War Ragnarok after I said that God of War 2018 was like my favorite modern day ever? So I had a big crisis of conscience, and then unfortunately, we're in a group where we have people that are so negative about Ragnarok 2 that then you start believing the own hype.
Yeah.
And calling out AIDS here. So it's like you hear that and then you see your desire that you don't want to replay, to kind of be like, no, I know that's not true, but it's like, is it true? Yeah. Then I love the Valhalla DLC from last December, but it still was not like in the mood to replay. And the PC version kind of came out recently, like last week.
Yeah, just last week.
Like, so I was like, you know what? It's like, this seems like the perfect time to kind of pretend that I'm replaying. I'm gonna replay now the PS4 version on PS5. That is pretty excellent still, because that was a PS4 game. Because I wanted to get it. I want to get it. I want to platinum it again, because I kind of want to recreate my original experience. And my relationship with this game has been a complicated journey in this replay, because boy, those first 10 hours.
Yeah.
Boy. It's like,
I am all the way on board with 2018 being a better game. I mean, it's a tough act to follow. You had to have, a storyline, and I think just a group of characters, a central group of characters that's stronger. But the relationship that you put so much into in the first game is just not there.
Yeah.
And as the parent of a teenager, I can tell you it was very realistic.
Yes.
And that is how it goes. And it does. There are days where it just sucks like that. I mean, there's nothing you can do, and you're just at each other's, throats. But that is tough when you've invested so much, and it was such a good story, and you felt so good about it being done with that. And then to see that kind of very similar to what people thought about the relationship between Joel and Ellie in the part 2. Yeah. I mean, and I'm like, guys, hey, hang on. It's realistic. Yeah, that's how it goes. But so I mean, that's a tough act to follow. It really, really was for both of those games. So I don't blame you on how you feel about Ragnarok.
Yeah, and I feel like the thing that frustrates me the more is that it has such a rough first 10 hours, because it's like you see the origins of this being a PS4 game so born out there, where you're like in Svartalheim, where you're like crawling, the crevice crawling, that you're constantly now thank you, Travis, that now we can forever I can never now every time that I do that I think about crevice crawling.
I said it to myself when I was playing that level in Astrobot. I'm like, oh, it's crevice crawling.
That was so, I love that. I laughed so hard that they made a joke into the crevice crawling. That's all over it.
So many wink and nod moments in that game. So many of them.
Yeah, so it's like it's so cheekily perfect. But then Ragnarok was like, so like 2018 had crevice crawling, but not to this degree. Especially early on in Ragnarok. Ragnarok is like has such severe early pacing problems that frustrate me the most, because once you get out of that 10-hour hump of that makes a Svartalheim, Alfheim, the Ironwoods. The Ironwood. That Ironwoods part, my God, there's this amazing meme of the Giancarlo Esposito that I cannot wait to replay that game. And then the angry face like, that part is like, you always know that there's a game that you love, but there's always those parts that you don't want to relive ever again.
Yes. You wish you just skip through them. I know.
Oh, yeah. It's like, gosh, why am I riding a jack? Why am I picking fruit? It's like, why am I following this ditzy girl that's not really saying anything until she does?
Because you got to have 60 hours of gameplay, man. Yes, come on. You'll get excommunicated if your game isn't 60 hours. You got to have that filler.
Yes. And that's the thing that frustrates me the most about Ragnarok in that way, because you can feel the way that they thought they needed to pad it.
Yeah.
Because the story that's really there, once it gets going, and like when it cooks, that story is so good.
Yeah.
That relationship with Kratos and Freya. Like their kindred spirit and their kindred understanding after being at each other's throats. Kind of like Atreus eventually coming into its own, and kind of like how like him having to deal with like the insecurities of his teenager and how he's like at his throes with the father that he feels is not like trusting him, while the father is still trying to find a way to see how he understands how his son is going as he's trying to now play both sides and things like
right.
There's such a, I feel like Ragnarok has such an interesting like interwoven story that it's just so big that obviously the tighter 2018 story was like a more easier to connect because it was just about them too.
Right.
But then it's like some of the things that Ragnarok cooks with is like so good that I'm like, gosh, it's like now I remember why I really love this, but gosh, it's like this is like I feel Ragnarok more than any modern like at least from current PlayStation is the game that from first party that suffers the most of. Oh, they really wanted to make this so big that gosh, this is where I'm seeing like where you can nip nip certainly. In the butt some stuff, and that's why I'm like I understand where people may not have the desire to replay it or be like under or maybe even call it that maybe Ragnarok was a bit more overrated than like the 2018 because they had the same scores. 2018 and this one are scored similar, and I'm like, I feel Ragnarok should have scored maybe 4 points lower. Maybe like at a 90 would have been like more, or even high 80s probably would have been like more kind of like at least better representative of like an experience that drags in so many parts, but it's also so freaking excellent in other places that I'm glad that at least now I understand that my reasons were not unfounded. The 2018 is a better game.
Yeah,
but I would say that. So, but some people really like talking crap about Ragnarok in a way that no, this is still a way better game than most things that still have come out. And the fact that it's still cross-gen, it's still wild that it's still better than so many things that are just like made for this gen. But it's a more complicated game to analyze than the high praise that initially got. That I feel like was felt more because 2022. When people talk about dry years, let's look back at that one. That one was one.
So, it was. It certainly was.
Yeah, that's also that's kind of what I wanted to say about Ragnarok. I think I'm like 3/4 of the way now, like in my replay, and I'm like now at the point where I'm like, okay, now I remember why I'm really liking this. But those first 2 hours, I was like, where design this, and we're gonna have a talk. so
it's okay, man. It's okay. You can feel it.
Yes. Okay, all right, Brian. So now to talk about the thing that we're gonna talk about, which was the state of play. You have now become kind of like the guy that I talk state of plays with. Now that this is the second time we did this year.
I love the new announcement.
So just just top level, what do you think of this state of play, especially and then compare it to the other ones that we got this year?
I think it was really good. Like I think, I mean, obviously you could probably say it's colored by the introduction of an actual first-party studio game, and that's fine. But I think even on its own merit, it was solid. There was something there for everybody. There were games that I really like stood up and I was like, oh. Okay, that looks interesting. Like Hell Is Us, I think that looks very interesting.
Yes,
and I'll get to that one because I did a little diving into like who's making that game. It's very interesting.
Okay, I would like to hear about it because I haven't really like dig in like much other than kind of like the surface level.
I don't know why that one I chose, but I just because I've heard of Nacon, that's the publisher, and I didn't really know much about them. So I'll get to that. But no, I think it was great. I think there was some stuff there there was something for everyone, really, right? I mean, you've got your rematch like. Give me weird.
The mic kind of did the switch.
It switched over to my camera again, like you said. Like you have the remaster of Horizon, and whether you believe that is needed or not. But then you've got something like Lunar remaster collection, which I think people have been screaming for a long time. Lunar was huge back in the PS1 day. Yeah. So there's a little something for everybody, and they did a good job, I think, of bouncing back and forth between types and genres. You've got a little PS1 horror in there. Which is nice and is still having its day. You've got regular games. You didn't see a lot of like FPS games, but you saw some nice. They didn't go heavy on PSVR 2, which was nice because what they did show looked really good, I thought.
Yes.
Like I'm never going to play those games, but Metro looks amazing. I liked seeing the game. It was the Midnight Walk. Yeah, that's both VR2 and PS5, which I was really excited.
I was so glad for that. I was so glad for that because it's like sometimes these VR games look so good, and I'm like, but I'm never gonna play it because I'm not gonna spend the money on PSVR 2 when I know it's barely been supported. It's like I feel this is the way forward. It's like give it away for people to play normally for the people that are enthusiasts about their hardware. Give it that. But,
if it gets down to maybe $200-$250 someday, and I know I can use it on PC, which now we can. Then maybe that might be something that I will do, and then I'll have a backlog of games to play on that too. But right now I can't see spending the equivalent of another PS5 on that. Like I don't see it. So exactly. But it was what they showed was good, as opposed to some where they've shown just a lot of games. I think they did a good job of hitting the high notes, and they showed ones that were on the platform but not just just to just spit it out. They actually showed good ones
Mm-hmm.
that seemed like they were going to be high quality. So I like seeing that. So I mean, there was a lot there for me. There was a lot that I'm not ever going to play, but there was a lot that I think is
Mm-hmm.
good for the brand. I think is good for PlayStation fans, and I think obviously there's stuff there that I'm definitely going to play, Ghost among them, and
Mm-hmm.
and some other stuff. So I'm excited. I thought it was a really solid. Was it better than the other two? Yeah, I think it's objectively better than at least one of the other two.
Oh
And
yes.
then probably about on par. Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
but I still think it's probably the top one of the year.
Yes, I would definitely say, like, now looking at the content, like at the content percentage itself, I think is definitely the best one of the year. What made the January one so strong was that coming into the year, there was so much uncertainty about what was gonna happen for PlayStation in that kind of first half, other than Final Fantasy VII Rebirth. There was still kind of
Right.
like a bunch of incognitos that, despite the fact that they barely announced stuff there, there was a lot of like solidifying like
Yeah.
dates. So
Yeah.
that can also kind of be very exciting. It's like they solidified for Rise of the Ronin, for Dragon's Dogma 2, they solidified for Stellar Blade, for another look at Helldivers 2. Give us an extended look at Death Stranding 2, which was batshit insane.
Yeah.
Like what that true, because Kojima is just a genius, announcing a new Kojima game at like that is basically him. That was basically him going back to the thing that made him popular in the brand. So it's like that's why, like, I really enjoyed kind of that state of play, even though the majority of that was not really new announcements. It was like that was updated looks at what's coming pretty soon that you'll be playing. And it actually was the state of play that solidified to me. Was like when I came into this year, I was like, PlayStation got nothing. There's gonna be a quiet year for that. I'm gonna be spending more on my Series X that I just bought on Christmas.
Nice.
Look how that had come out.
Yeah, exactly.
I really got like lucky on that one. How this year has done, all things considered. But this had more announcements. It had a legit new first party game at the end of it. It had kind of like that weird mix of games that I associate with PlayStation. That kind of, these are the energies that I like about PlayStation. To me, PlayStation is not just about its overly cinematic for third person over the shoulder first party.
It doesn't have to be.
Yeah, it doesn't have to be. It's like, I'm glad they have them, but the spirit of the brand to me is being able to have all that, and I feel the state of play delivered on that, at least not in a blow your socks off, but I feel it's now hitting a level of consistency that, barring the one from May that was very it was actually disappointing, man, especially extra so because of Concord that took too much time. And it was only Astrobot, which is like, technically the fact that we got Astrobot out of that one and it's one of the best games of this year, still kind of there's still some merit that they still were able to put that out, but that state of play paled in comparison to the rest of the showcases around it. That was kind of like the problem.
But, of course, everybody, you're always going to be compared, no matter what you do. If the guy after you does it better,
exactly. So that was, I feel that's why that state of play was like the worst one of the three, especially in comparison, and also because Sony, I'm at this point with Sony. Is like, are you really do you still want to do showcases? Do you just want to do state of plays? Because look at Nintendo, they never do showcases, but they do their multiple Nintendo Directs, and that's fine. I feel like Sony has been in this. They trained their audience in a wrong way of kind of like, they started doing state of plays back in 2019. If everyone was like, okay, if this is the solution of no E3s, okay, it's like, let's see if them trying to evolve, but then they're blow us away with that showcase that revealed the PS5, but they still kept doing state of plays. They're like, oh yeah, this is definitely the lesser presentation, right? Then 2021 we circled around, was like around the time that we got a showcase last year, we didn't get one, so it's like, oh no, what happened? But then we got one in September, and they technically gave us two showcases in 2020, the one in June and September. So it was like they had a branding problem, and kind of like the things that they were announcing that I feel like they still, I don't know if this was a Jim Ryan thing. I don't know if this is kind of like a scuttlebutt with marketing or anything, but I do feel ever since they hired Shawnee Benson, I feel like they have thought of the idea that, you know what, maybe we need to make our state of plays better instead of trying to do showcase, because at least we can have those consistent beats, which at this point is like, now I know that when I reach a certain month of the year, I know we're gonna get one. I don't have to be with this uncertainty that we're gonna go with them not saying anything, because they still do. It's just a branding problem they have. And then you have Xbox that just do showcases. But at least you know that every June comes around, that's your yearly check-in with them. To see the same games you've been hearing for the last 4 years. But regardless of that, you're still hearing, it's still a yearly check-in. So I feel
like showcases should be reserved for super huge. Like if you have like 3 or 4 huge games to roll out or a system, that's your showcase. And if not, then go right ahead and just do state of plays. If you can have a good level of quality on your state of plays, I have no problem with that being, and you may not even do, you may even go 1 or 2 years between showcases. I'm okay with that as long as what you're showing is decent, right?
Yeah, and I feel they really set themselves up for failure in the fact that a lot of the games that were at that original showcase were all first party, at least a majority of them. So it's like a lot of people sometimes like coming into these things, be like, show me all your first party content. And I'm like, guys, it's like, an ecosystem is not just first party. That's not feasible unless you're Nintendo.
Right, exactly. Where almost everything is first party.
Exactly, but
Sony is a victim of their own success in that way, and I know that's a good problem to have. And they're probably looking at it like, okay, well, oh gosh, let me wipe my tears for how upset our fans are with these $1,000 bills. I'm sorry, we're printing money, so why are we upset? And they're not, and I get that, and that is a good problem to have, but it's still a problem if your fan base is that upset.
Exactly, because
as delusional and unrealistic as they may be, God bless them, they're still upset.
It's expectations, and that's the thing. Like, I feel a lot of people, I'm like, if you've ever been historical in PlayStation, are you only playing first party games? Like, I do not believe that for a second, and the data shows that's not even true. Like, how people use this machine. So that's why I'm like, I am never like, whenever we see state of plays that gives us third parties, I'm like, I don't care. Give them to me, because I know, like, I need something to play as we wait sometimes for the big stuff. So it's like,
and Sony does not have the market cornered on making good games. There are good games coming out everywhere. And if you can play them on your chosen system, why wouldn't you want to? Why are you getting upset at that? Like, I don't get that either. I don't.
Exactly. That's why, like, I feel like right now they really need to figure out a way to maybe recalibrate expectations of their fans. That's why I feel like sometimes you notice trends. The trends that I'm noticing here is like, okay, we have not gone a showcase, but all 3 state of plays from this year have announced something big and in first party right at the end. That's like pretty imminent. Is that kind of like how they're trying to save themselves from time, because they know their development pipeline is such that it doesn't align for like a yearly circular showcase, and it's kind of like giving themselves the 3 checkpoints to see when they can kind of debut or tell us more about an imminent release. If that's a new pattern, I'll take it, because it's like, they're still talking to us, and at least these are the consistent times that we hear them talk, because otherwise you don't hear anything. So
true. I'd rather them talk less and talk well than just, like you said, do the Xbox thing, stick their foot in their mouth.
Like Nintendo,
they're always talking, but they're not talking well. So.
And Nintendo only talks whenever there's a Nintendo Direct coming. It's like they're trying so hard to emulate them. It's like, it's not even funny. Like the Astrobot release was a Nintendo move, and it paid off for them. So it's like, I expect that more than trying to see the same games that I'm gonna see from Xbox next year.
Yeah, exactly.
I'm already at this point with them. It's like that's been the last 4 years for them. So now to run through the things, we're gonna go one by one, like in the order as seen here in the War 64. So obviously they kicked us out with Astrobot. They announced the more content that they had already told us that were gonna come in. And in this state of play, they said that they're adding 5 new speedrun levels, which I think it's kind of like in the spirit of what Astro's Playroom's speedrun levels were kind of.
Correct. They had their own collection of speedruns as well.
Yeah. So they're gonna add that, and they're gonna add 10 new bots to rescue, which 2 of them they teased are the soldier from Helldivers and Eve from Stellar Blade. So this is gonna be a free add-on that's gonna come this fall, but the director then kind of came forward and said that it's not just this, that they're planning more stuff. And I'm like, yes, give me more Astrobot, because like
exactly, there's no such thing as too much Astrobot in that game, because I mean, just keep adding. There are so many things you can add. I know we're not going to get Square Enix characters, but
Square Enix
I would have loved that. I
don't eventually, get that at all. Or eventually that they will see that they're still celebrating, and they will want to get their heads out of their asses and be like, oh yeah, we're
I don't know, man. That talk about a ship that turns slowly. It's taken them how long to realize they're cannibalizing their own sales by releasing 17 games a month or some craziness like that? I don't know if they're gonna get their heads all the way out.
Or 2 Final Fantasy, or 2 and a mainline Final Fantasy in the second piece of the remake project within the same calendar year. And of course they cannibalize each other because one got more marketing than the other. So it's like they're a really like frustrating company, especially because they have now put out really high quality games to the point where, remember the PS3 days where none of their games were quality? It was like it was like in such a low. So maybe
I mean they've done well. They've made a good comeback as far as what they're putting out, the quality of it. They're just
their expectations are out of the whack.
It's funny. It almost feels disingenuous to be like, stop putting out so many good games, guys. But at least let them breathe a little bit. I mean, that will definitely help. Oh, and maybe let people celebrate your games too. That'd be
Exactly.
nice.
And I feel like that's the thing that I hate the most, that I feel like Final Fantasy VII Rebirth this year is one of the very best games that have come out this year, that has been from the last week. It's like a miracle that a game that translates the old school Final Fantasy experience, modernizes, like works so well in that way, that I feel a lot of people are like hinging towards them being like, oh yeah, it underperformed for our expectations and all that. I'm like, you do that and then you're completely like undermining the fact that until Asteroid you had the highest rated game this year, a game that was celebrated. It's just like, it's so frustrating when that happens.
Yeah, and that's a very strange thing to say. I'm all for, I mean, and obviously Japanese companies are generally a little more forthcoming, they're a little more honest like that. There's not as much, business speak. But why do you put that message out and be like, yeah, we're disappointed in this? It's a self-fulfilling prophecy. If you say you're disappointed in your game,
it's a meme.
You're not sending the right message.
They do it for older games. That's what's so frustrating. There's like,
I know, it makes no sense.
There's a list now of all the times that they've done it in the last decade. It's like clockwork all the way since Tomb Raider, when they owned that in 2013. That has been their MO. And I'm like, are they really underperforming? Because how are you still in business? It's literally everything that you put out, you're saying that it has underperformed. It's clearly performing well, because otherwise, how are you in business? They're still open. That's kind of how I see it.
It could be the fact that they're just living in the past. Like, their games, there are just more good games out there now. There are more things taking people's money. And so do you have to just readjust your mindset? Like, if it's a disappointment, if it doesn't sell 5 million copies, you may not get there every time.
Yes.
Like, even though it's Final Fantasy VII and everybody wanted that game, like I don't know the current count on their copies sold, but I mean, I don't know how you can be disappointed in that. Like, what were you expecting?
Yeah, I know the remake sold like not even 9 million copies. So so that's why I was like, it's you don't even have that high a ceiling already just with your remake. So it's like, so that's why I'm like,
but still, are we in an age now where that is a disappointing total? 9 million copies?
Exactly. And that was the 2020 remake. I know this one's trailing, obviously, like
certainly.
Like exclusive just on one machine that didn't have the install base the other one had. A different name. Anecdotally, it's so funny when I tell people I was playing Final Fantasy VII Rebirth. It's like they were like, oh, what was that? I'm like, that's the part 2 of the remake. And they were like, wait, that's so remake part 2 was this. So already kind of like in branding, like Rebirth was like a weird for some people that were not really in the know. So that is very complicated, kind of like what happened in the financial performance of that game. But it's like, that's a really beloved game that even the developers were sending like thank you notes for people that reviewed it, because they were like honored. They say we're honored for the high reception from critics and the fans and all that. And I'm like, yeah, the devs know, but it's like, why does the executives don't? It's like, it's like so frustrating. And I'm like, if something's gonna cost you like your game of the year win this year, is that, because everyone has like latched into that, and then by the time they're voting, they will use that as an excuse to not vote for you.
I wouldn't doubt it.
And it would pain me, because I feel like this is the one time that I feel like Square Enix game like has a shot, especially the year also. But I mean, Asteroid is there now, and the critic community rallied on this one. So
they did, but I'm also wondering, like, because Astrobot is the kind of game it is, and it's a Sony game, and people are kind of liking to beat up on Sony these days because they're the winners, right?
That's
you like to punch out. Are they going to get that? Like, are they? I don't know. I don't know what else would. Maybe it'll be Rebirth. Maybe ittle be something else. I don't know.
Metaphor. They're Metaphor that I just downloaded the demo that's gonna transfer over. So Astrobot. More content for Astrobot coming sometime this fall. When you'll probably learn in the PlayStation blog, because they randomly.
Oh, I'm sure. Yeah, no doubt.
And then the game you mentioned, the Midnight Walk, which is this kind of like weird Tim Burton-esque, creepy
very
art
claymation,
style.
Weird movement. Tim Burton. That's a good pull for sure.
Yeah, I think Gene Park made the joke as like, "Why is Sackboy in hell?" or something like that. The first thing that you saw, so it made it even funnier. Like so yeah, it's like this was being promoted as kind of like a first-person VR thing, but then they were like, "Oh yeah, this is also on PS5, and you can kind of see the character going through this." And I'm like, that kind of art style is so of my jam. Is like the kind of weird that I love out of my games. That I'm like, I'm glad that it's not just exclusive for PSVR 2. So this is from the creators from Lost in Ransom. It's coming in 2025, but that's all we know. So
I think that gives me Little Nightmares vibes too, like anything like that. And I love Little Nightmares. So like a first person creepy Little Nightmares like game. Yeah, I would definitely do that for sure. So I'll definitely be checking that one out on PS5.
Yeah, and then the game that you mentioned that you kind of like dug up a little bit more info, and this one was interesting because it's such a contradiction of style. Like you
Yes.
have this main character that looks like someone straight out of the Division with like
Yeah.
this light swords that are fighting all this like demonic creatures. This game is called Hell Is Us from Rogue Factor and Nacon. So
Right.
it looked like a Souls. It had kind of like that Souls like camera to it.
It did.
I've learned ever since playing Black Myth Wukong that we're at the point where games look like Souls likes, but they may not be. So what do you find out about this game? Because
well, it's interesting.
from...
My first thoughts were kind of like you. Like, so you've got a guy that looks very modern. He's got a drone flying next to him, but he's fighting with like swords and stuff. Like, and it very contrasting styles. Like, I do not know what to expect from that. And you've got regular humans, but you've also got these like nightmarish, like, you know, I have no face and I must scream kind of characters. And like, I do not know anything to make of it. So I wanted to kind of get an idea. So first thing, the developer Rogue Factor, they have made two games, completely two games, tactical RPG / strategy games in the Warhammer universe. That is
it's them. Okay,
that's them. Yeah, that, and they've only made two games, and it is completely different style. Like, this is a completely different game, so it's gonna be very interesting to see what this game plays like versus. And I'm assuming it doesn't have any connection to Warhammer, but maybe it does. I don't know.
Yeah,
who knows?
I play Space Marine too, so definitely doesn't. I would say it definitely doesn't.
Yeah,
so,
I didn't think there was that kind of supernatural stuff in Warhammer, but that is their pedigree, so I don't know. And then I was looking at Nacon because I'd heard of them as a publisher. They are all over the place, man. They publish some just crazy stuff. Like, from way back. The first game they ever published was on Dreamcast, if that tells you how long they've been around. And they're publishing games, like some of their biggest games were World Rally Championship games, racing games, rugby games. I mean, they're just all over the place. So to see them publishing this, I don't know what to think. Like, they don't have a type. They don't have a particular, I mean, they'll publish anything. Like, literally.
Yeah. It actually reminds me.
I was going through, and I think it was a DS game or something, and I'm just scrolling through on Wikipedia to list of the games, and one of them was like, "I love my little boy, I love my little girl, I love my dog." I'm like, "What is going on here?" Like, I have no idea what to make of them, but it looks great. But I have no idea what the end product is.
Yeah, it's so like visually, it's so visually provocative, and I like that. I like when something is like, when something is not just that. We reached a point where there's so much sameness that can like play gaming, that then when something like so visually artistic kind of like catch your eye, like in the uniqueness of like a weird smorgasbord, I feel that's what this is. And I wonder if this is kind of like the same situation as Shift Up with Stellar Blade. They did like they did their mobile like thing, their Nikkei game, and there was kind of like a time crisis thing that was like pervy also, but it was like
Infinity Nikkei,
So then they did Stellar Blade, which was an action adventure game with a little bit of Souls like and Bayonetta kind of like mixed and existing in between. So maybe it's that. And I like that game developers that you don't think about are kind of like branching out, and the way it's looking is looking even better than you would expect from people with not that kind of pedigree. So I know that's also.
It will be very interesting to see how that goes. I was all in when I saw the creepy horror character. I'm like, yes, this looks like, you know, Evil Within or something like this. So seeing the contrasting styles, I'm very and interested in seeing how that plays out and what kind of game it actually is going to be.
Yeah. Then we got Metro Awakening, the PSVR 2 game that got announced in the first State of Play from this year. Finally got a release date that's coming out on November 7th, exactly the same day as the PS5 Pro. Who they say that the PS5 Pro is going to also enhance PSVR 2 games. When they specifically mentioned that, I was like, oh, so they're not fully abandoning the PSVR 2, despite the fact that they already have the dongle that you can connect to your PC. So
I honestly think that was a good way to go. I mean, because if you're going to PC with your games anyway, why not get even more reasons for people to associate PC and quality with PlayStation? I mean, that was a no-brainer. I think they did it rather clumsily with that dongle. It doesn't sound like it's a great solution.
Yeah.
But I mean, that's one of the reasons why I might buy a PSVR 2 if it goes down in price later on, is use it for both. Why not? It immediately becomes one of the 2 or 3 best VR headsets available for PC. So
and the library. And the library in PC already so much more vast than on PlayStation. And then at least you had that guarantee that because games are still being made for MetaQuest and things like that, at least you know that there's still ways for you to keep using it. If it was just like in the walled garden that is a PlayStation 5, it's like history has told us that Sony never treats their auxiliary hardware as good as they do their main stuff. Like,
not since the PSP. They've just, you know, everything since has just been abandoned.
I lived in the Vita trenches. I know what it was like. So
Vita Island, man.
Vita Island. It was a good time to be in. Like it was. The citizens were few, but we all loved each other because we all knew we were on borrowed time there for the little handheld that could. That was way ahead of its time, because gosh, seeing the Switch succeed as it did makes me have more pain for the Vita. The Vita came way too early. So there's rumors that they may give another dedicated handheld another go with how good the Portal sold. So
I hope that that's the case, because I really don't want to think they're going to go the Series X, Series S route with a nerfed chip. I can't imagine them doing that. So if they have two different chips, like is being reported, that's the only thing I can think of, and I do hope that, because like you said, I mean, the Portal was great, and it would be great to have a Portal that is also a standalone, right?
Yeah, that plays all the same games. So obviously, like downscale for them to work like in the handheld, because it's like it is clear now that the handheld market is still alive and well. It's,
they're looking at Steam Deck and being like, let me get one of those. They are. They have to be.
Yes, once again, Nintendo setting the trend or showing people is like there's markets when people thought there were none.
Yep, you got the Switch. You're gonna have a Super Switch. Steam is showing the way with the Steam Deck. I mean, and there's obviously, I mean, I don't know anything about ROG Ally, but I mean, that's supposed to be very good too. Like, I mean, there are, like you said, it's kind of a renaissance right now for handhelds. And, why not? Sony was there for a while. I'd rather them put money into a handheld than to VR, another VR.
Yeah, because at
least that's going to be what they're going to do, but.
Because at least now that we've gotten to that ubiquity where it's like, instead of like you have to make games for this handheld, it's like, no, all systems can play like the same baseline game. I think that's kind of like being like the difference of where we are now, that that I'd rather that, because like with VR you have to make it a VR game, but then in a handheld, if it's still like with this ubiquity, it's like that it's still the same games being played, just kind of like downscaled. It is like that works well enough.
So and people have clearly demonstrated that they're okay with that, like all the people that apparently play at 30 FPS on their games. It's like, really?
Yes. Though I'm glad. Yeah, I'm glad that, because speaking of Sacred Symbols podcast, like that's where they got the report that a lot of people were picking their graphics mode instead of performance mode.
Oh yeah.
And then Mark Cerny was the one that was like, oh yeah, our data shows that 75% of people are like sacrificing the visual graphic quality to play on 60 frames. It's like, interesting. It's like it's that is like that flips that switch has flipped now. So
yeah, I sure hope so, because I'd much rather a game look slightly less but play better, because you're not just, I mean, if it's a movie, sure, okay, I'm looking at this game, but if you're playing it, why would you not want that?
Exactly.
I don't know. I don't understand people, so I guess I'm okay with that.
Exactly. So yeah, again, Metro Awakening, that'll be the new PS5 Pro thing that you can play, because Assassin's Creed Shadows got delayed today. So,
exactly.
Because that was going to be
the Metro games are awesome, so I love seeing that, and it looks really good. The sound sounded great, the visuals look great. I'm all about that.
Yeah,
I will, maybe someday it'll become a PS5 game too, but
I would have loved it. Would have been just a normal PS5 game with a VR mode, kind of like the other thing. Maybe they'll eventually realize that that's a good way to hit both markets. So
maybe.
The next game that was announced was the online action RPG Arch-Age Chronicles. So apparently this was a franchise that I didn't know, or I didn't really.
I didn't either. I didn't even know it was an MMORPG until I looked it up later. Like, I mean, it was all cinematics. Maybe it said that, but it was just a cinematic. Nothing about that told me it was a MMO.
Yeah, there was like this weird like mix of gameplay within it. Like if you really looked at it, they were like, yeah, this is just it's like I'm reading from the PlayStation blog. There's like, we're excited to introduce the next installment in the Arch-Age series, Arch-Age Chronicles. As an online action RPG, Arch-Age Chronicles promises to deliver a more immersive experience with a strong emphasis on action combat. The game will feature epic large-scale raids and cooperative gameplay, offering a diverse array of activities for players to enjoy. That sounds like an MMO, but they're not calling it one. So
okay, it definitely does sound like that. Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, that's also out on 2025. It's still like, I feel like the kind of action that it is was like look more my style, because I've been like more, this is not quite Souls-like, but it's more I think Hogue from Hogue Life was like, oh yeah, this is like has that Final Fantasy 16 kind of like grandeur in combat, but it's an online combat game. So yeah, that's out next year.
Something for everybody, man. Doesn't have to be for me.
Yeah. Pal World coming to PS5 came out yesterday on everywhere but Japan, because in Japan Nintendo's suing them. So the timing for this
one, Nintendo.
Yeah, the timing for this one couldn't have been worse for them, but at least now they got it out on the other system that it wasn't on, and this is like a full 1.0 release. Yeah, the rest of the world can experience it. Hopefully, let's see how that lawsuit kind of like results for them. But yeah,
it's interesting. When I first saw this, my thought was, did they miss the zeitgeist? Like, is this still a thing? So I went and looked at SteamDB. It's actually doing pretty well.
Yeah, it's just not the 2 million that when he
no, certainly not. I actually looked. It was almost 17,000 concurrent players at the moment I looked on Steam, and that was earlier today, and a 24-hour peak of 24,000 players concurrent. So I mean, that's nothing to laugh at all.
Yeah, and
you know,
you're the
again, not
community
for me,
manager.
but yeah, I mean, now that putting on one of the biggest, the biggest console, why not? Sure.
Yeah, and the community manager has mentioned that any developer will love like 10K concurrent.
Oh, absolutely.
So
100%. That's not a bad number at all. It just looks bad in comparison to 2 million. But I mean, Helldivers is a fraction of what it was at that time too. So, and it's still going strong. I mean, other than the whole, you know, rebellion against against the developer. But hey,
yeah, that was so funny how that happened. It's like, and kind of like the cycle of life service, like where they were like at the top of the world. It's still like one of the best selling games of this year from Sony, also second party. What a dry year for them, huh?
Yeah, exactly. I know.
So
how that doesn't count.
Yeah, and you kind of mentioned it, like the timeline full of boomers in my my Twitter popped at the Lunar Remastered Collection thing. This is one where I'll tell you, I didn't even know what Lunar was until I started looking up. So, do you play Lunar back in the day? Like, do you know
I did not know, but I remember it being a big deal. Like Lunar Silver Story is like a big one of the big RPGs, like the JRPGs from the PS1 era. You know, it's mentioned with all the other big ones. So when I heard that, I'm like, I wasn't into JRPGs back in the day. I wish I was into JRPGs.
Same.
But I just wasn't back then. I was playing, you know, Tekken and, you know, whatever else on that platform. So, but no, I mean, it's one of those ones you hear mentioned, not exactly in the same breath as Final Fantasy, but it was up there. People loved it. I didn't know about the sequel, but I mean, I'm glad to see it come back. So
yeah, and both games are gonna be out for PS4 and PS5 like next spring. So pretty cool to see, especially because now there's JRPG renaissance. I feel that genres are more respected and more liked. I mean, look at the hype for Metaphor. So
yeah, exactly. Oh yeah, well. Metaphor's in a whole different universe now that Persona has exploded into the main consciousness of the world. But yeah.
Yeah, so yeah, Lunar Remaster coming to spring 2025. Then we got like some quick hits of the TMNT Shredder's Revenge beat 'em up we got 2 years ago. They got a DLC called Radical Reptiles that was announced and officially out that same day. And they also said that Fantasia Neo Dimension, the game from Hironobu Sakaguchi, the father of Final Fantasy, that this was his last game he made for mobile back for Apple Arcade, that a lot of people were like, this is actually really good, we wish it was not mobile. And it's finally gonna be out for too. It's gonna hit though for people that in this annoying discourse about like what's happening with Final Fantasy, you know, what is a Final Fantasy and all that, for the people that are like, they miss the turn based, like the father of the franchise. It's keeping that spirit alive. That's out on December 5. And the Sonic the Hedgehog 3 movie pack, where they're like adding Keanu Reeves boys to Shadow for the Sonic X Shadows Generation Remaster. That's going to be available on December 12th for people that are excited for that. I'm actually excited for the Sonic movie.
I want to get back into Sonic. I think Generations is on my hard drive on Steam, and I just can't. I can't muster any
desire,
you know, excitement for that. I don't know. I can't. Before we get too far past that, I want to go back to Fantasia real quick. I as I said, I don't play a lot of JRPGs, but I want to play that one. Something about the pre-rendered diorama style backgrounds and the 3D characters on top of it, kind of 2.5D, kind of not, but just that look. Something about that just speaks to me. I liked the mechanic and I don't know anything about the game, but
it's the mechanic
of being able to stock the battles, the random battles, and play them all at once. And because that is one of the things I hate about random encounter games is you have no choice. I don't want to fight right now. But you know, so the fact that you can stock those and like apparently do them all at once at some other time, that is awesome. And the fact that not only do you have Sakaguchi, but you've got Uematsu too, the guy who did the music for Final Fantasy for years.
Like that's like peanut butter and jelly. That's peanut butter and jelly combination. It's like
so I will actually play that one. I am excited for that.
Same, especially because like I became a Final Fantasy convert last year. Especially not just 16, but like franchise convert, like in general. So it's like and me like falling in love with those pixel remasters. It's so good. Like, and knowing like
those, I really do.
Yeah, they're really good. If you can get the physical one, like, like one of those, like that would be like, they're just obviously so expensive, but it's like such a special collection of games. Yeah, highly recommend, especially playing Final Fantasy 1, 4, and 6. That's the ones that I really fell in love with in those. So that's out on December 5th. Then we got a way too long demo for Dragon Age the Veilguard, which
very long.
October 31st. It's weird that this got so much. I feel like Dragon Age is not a game that you need to demo its combat for, if I'm perfectly honest. What you want a demo of a BioWare game is its world, its characters, like exploration, things like that. And combat should be kind of like sprinkled, not just like this big focus, because it's like what makes a BioWare game is never its combat. Never has been. The
True.
games that the Bioware games that have been all about combat have been the worst. Hello, Anthem.
So
Hello,
does
Mass
that
Effect
make you
Andromeda.
worry about this game? Are you worried that they're focusing on the combat, or do you think the story stuff is going to come later?
I feel like based on the previews that has said that the story stuff is actually really good, I'm still trying to hold hope, but right now I'm in that your last two games burned me, even with the positive previews that felt a little too manufactured in a way. And it's also because it was a vertical slice. I need to believe when the reviews are out that they're able to cut. They have landed the ship, because Bioware has just been astray, and this has been 10 years in the waiting. So
they've gone far away from, like, everyone has those studios where it doesn't matter. It's the, shut up and take my money studios, right? For a lot of people that was BioWare, and they have lost the benefit of the doubt on that. Exactly. They just haven't. So everybody is now in a prove it to me, mode, just like you are. I'll wait for the reviews. I'm not pre-ordering. I'm not doing this. I'm not doing that.
Yeah. But so, I wish for anything for this to be good, because now that AC Shadows is out, I'm like, I need something meaty for the fall.
Yeah. Because there's nothing else to play in fall. No, I know. It's all coming out in February. That's why.
Exactly. Yeah, the February now is a murderer's row of, like, it's gonna be the Red Wedding release dates. It's like, damn. Yeah. Then we got our first look at the second DLC piece for Alan Wake 2, The Lake House, which is coming in October. It's gonna be more of a crossover with Control than the first DLC piece was, because you could play as Jesse Faden, the red-haired protagonist from Control in that one. So
am I the only person that was really hoping that was Control 2? I was really hoping
everyone thought it was Control 2. Like, everyone literally wanted it to be. Yeah. But the fact that it was so horror-tinged, I'm like, oh no, this has got to be the second piece of DLC, because that's like that has been the Alan Wake 2. Did you play Alan Wake 2 by any chance?
I didn't know. I haven't played either of them. I want to play Alan Wake 2, but I haven't even played the original one, because of course it was Xbox for so long. And then when it finally came to that, I was like, this is 10-year-old gameplay. Do I really want to play 10-year-old janky gameplay?
It has some things that don't hold up, but the first game's actually holds up much better than you would think. Alan Wake, and Alan Wake 2, you have to be a real fan of survival horror and a lot of its trappings to really appreciate it. But it's I feel like Alan Wake 2 is just such a unique piece. I was the one that reviewed. I gave that game a 10.
I remember,
last year.
Yeah. And I think that's one I will play eventually. And I've watched my son play Control over and over again, so I didn't play it myself, but I've watched it enough to feel like I know.
You got the vibe.
Yeah. So I know that both of those games are quality. So I love the fact that the studio's doing that, and I love that they made that game, so relatively speaking, so cheaply, and it was so good. So I'm excited to see Control 2, but I will definitely try Alan Wake at some point.
Yeah. Now, real quick, are you getting a Pro?
No, I'm not going to get a Pro, at least not right away. No, I have no need for one, and I don't have the money for one anyway, even if I wanted to.
Yeah, because I was going to say, if you were going to get a Pro, this is what's going to be one of those games that is enhanced on the Pro. So that could be like
certainly. No,
especially with how
I would love to have a Pro someday, but I mean, I'm not there yet. I don't think that it's going to do enough for me
right now
to spend that kind of money. We'll see where it goes from there, but I think someday maybe, but no, not right away.
Yeah, I'm excited for this DLC. That first DLC was hilarious. It was like, the thing I love about Alan Wake 2 the most is he's just such a perfect melding of different mediums, video game, TV, and movies, like all mixed together in a way that
musicals apparently,
musicals and all that, and it never forgets that it's a video game. Kind of like if you compare like the way Alan Wake 2 does its over the shoulder cinematic third person action game, like you think, and you compare it more to like a Naughty Dog and all that. Like Naughty Dog tries so hard to be Hollywood, while Alan Wake 2 it's like, hey, we can make it that looks like Hollywood. We're not trying, because the only way this thing would work is the fact that it's a game. That's the thing that I love the most about like its transmedia mixing of how they did it. So
and you can be a game that takes itself seriously and still doesn't, right? I mean, there's a way to take yourself seriously, unseriously, which sounds stupid, but it's you can wink and nod and still be both.
Yes,
not everybody gets that.
Alan Wake 2 gets to the thing, like it gets close to the line of sniffing its own farts, but it's like it's also a game that knows that you expect that it's sniffing those those farts.
Well, right. I mean, you kind of know that's kind of built in, right? Yeah.
Yes. So I love that about it, because it's like it could have been so pretentious with like, look how we're mixing all of that, but it was so in on the joke and kind of like mixing all of that I couldn't help but respect that. Right. It's also. Agreed. If you look at that, one of the images I showed, it's also incredibly scary.
I bet. Yeah, I believe it.
So yeah, it's one of those that is like, oh yeah, I don't want to really, it's like, this game has that parts. It's not that it's bad parts, but it's like, it scared me so much. I don't think I want to go through this insane asylum of this like flashing image of a grandma screaming at me that looked like that great thing that came out. It's like, it can be like real unsettling.
I believe it.
So yeah, it was the scariest game I played last year. So
Okay.
then Hitman PSVR 2 is coming in this December. I wonder if this is them repackaging the PS4 VR mode they did for Hitman 3 back in like 2021. So because I was
so,
like,
yeah.
yeah, because I said in the chat that I was like writing when I was like watching this video. I was like Hitman VR, and then my friend was like, they're doing it again. I was like, that's right, they had done it, but it was just for PS4 because PSVR 1.
But wasn't that before they went from Hitman 3 and then turned it into World of Assassination?
Yeah,
that was that, right? Okay.
Yeah,
so this is kind of that same evolution, probably.
Exactly. And the funny thing is that World of Assassination is technically Hitman 3. It's just that they rebranded it to kind of like bring all the
they made a universe
together.
which is what they should do. I mean, they're because there's so much good content and they're making it a universe where you can play any of the levels. I think was a brilliant move. So yeah, it makes sense that they're updating their VR mode for sure.
Yeah, at least another thing for PSVR 2. At least I have to give them that the previous State of Plays only came with 2 VR announcements each, and I feel there was a little bit more VR here. So for the
and it was all good quality too, which I thought was nice. Like there were no. That's another thing. In this one, I didn't think there was any stinkers. There was no like kitty cat pirate game or whatever. There was not one of those, right?
No, Cat Quest 3 is good. I'll defend it. I'll defend Cat Quest. So then an announcement.
But tonally speaking, it was like, what did you just show me?
So like that, it's like everything felt more even keel. Then we got Legacy of Kain Soul Reaver 1 and 2 remastered, which is so sad that it got leaked earlier that day. So everyone was like, oh man, this is gonna be at the State of Play, and of course it was, man. This was like, there's been kind of like a Thanos like Infinity Stone, like what are some classic from the PS1 era that are still to come, and I feel like so many of them are like so back now. The Final Fantasies, the Metal Gear, the Resident Evils, now Legacy of Kain, the Tomb Raiders, that there was like the remaster from Tomb Raider 1, 2, and 3. Also by Aspire. So it's like now these games are back kind of like in that style. A lot of people are like, oh, that's cool. These are technically games 2 and 3. Where is game 1? Oh yeah, game 1's gonna be on PS Premium too. That was like so brilliant to kind of be like, yeah, they're giving you these 3 games soon. So
I don't know, man. You're talking about Blood Omen, right?
That's Blood Omen, the original one.
And I downloaded that and played it for a few minutes, and I was like,
there's a text.
It's almost like a text adventure, man. It is rough. Like it is nothing like Soul Reaver at all. What a huge jump from 1 to 2, man.
Yeah,
and Soul Reaver, I'm a huge fan of.
Yeah, and for people that are fans of Uncharted, it's like Amy Hennig directed and written. So it's like there's like that fun DNA if you want to see like some early like some of this early DNAs. Even though a lot of it also is very Tomb Raider coded because it came from Crystal Dynamics. So.
Right. You're absolutely right about that being one of those games that everybody kind of was waiting for and looking for. And I don't think I ever played 2, but I love Soul Reaver 1. It was so good. Like I will never forget the first time I just threw some dude at one of the spikes on the wall, and I'm like, oh my god, that just happened. Like wow. Like that is I don't know why that particular moment stuck in my brain, but that was so good.
That was back in the 90s. We get games that you can do it all the time. That was one of the first times you could. It's like games were just getting more interactive than before.
Yeah, absolutely. So I'm super excited. I love that you can do. Everybody seems to be kind of getting the idea that some people want the old graphics, some people want the new. So I'm excited to see that too. But yeah, that's a day one buy for me for sure.
It's the same, especially with like trying to look at December. I'm like, yeah, I think I can make this one work because I'm like in December I only have Indiana Jones. So
did you get it on the review sheet yet? You got to put it on the document.
I don't know if I want to review it. I kind of want to. I'm still kind of like debating what will be my next review. I already did 8 this year. Obviously, way less than I did last year. So.
You got to slow down at some point. Or you're gonna...
especially we got more contributors. I feel like it kind of spread the wealth a little bit.
Fair enough.
Yeah, so then they also announced Fear the Spotlight, this was one of the Blumhouse games that was kind of announced back at the Summer Game Fest when Jeff Keighley kind of brought Jason Blum, and they were like, oh yeah, we're trying to do this like horror games and we're kind of want to fun, and they're doing this that is kind of like in PS1 style graphics, which after Crow's Country, I think what it's called earlier.
Crow Country,
that was also in PS1. It's like, it's funny that we've gone from the 8-bit to 16-bit pixel art, and now we're in the PS1 kind of like era for people doing their indie games like that. I'm like, bring them in, like do that, because I know
they are having a moment with those kind of games, man. Absolutely.
And my thing was that, especially with what we learned with Freedom Wars that's coming back, and how Sony like licensed the IP for Bandai Namco to publish and the developer to kind of like bring it up. I'm hoping that these people are like seeing the dead IP that Sony has, like get their experience doing these kinds of games with this like art style and all that, then go to Sony and be like, hey, for really cheap, let's use the IP. We're gonna do it for you. You don't have to like do it. Maybe
Yeah.
that's how we get a lot of that IP that a lot of people are like this graveyard in Astrobot. That's kind of like
It
what I've
could
been
be.
thinking.
Yeah, that could. That's a good point.
Then we got Towers of Agashba, which this was announced at the showcase in 2023. So it's basically a kind of like an adventures Animal Crossing style. You're building kind of like this settlement while it's still feeling like a Breath of the Wild style like adventure where you even have the you even have
Yeah,
kind
there's a
of
lot going
glider.
on in that game. A lot of kind of different influences, like city
Yes.
building and, like you said, Animal Crossing. Invite people to your island. Like, I don't know.
Yeah.
Now I got to ask you about this. Did I miss something? When did early access become a thing on
I was
console? What
about
is
to
going
ask
on
you.
there?
I was about to ask you specifically on PS5 because it's been on Xbox for a while.
Yeah.
Early access is their game preview. That's why Pal World was there, because they wanted to launch that in early access, and the only one that had early access in console was Xbox with game preview. So it was like when I saw that they were doing a PS5 early access, I was thinking the only time that I can remember an early access was Fortnite. Because that was like in early access for forever.
Sure. Well, yeah. Well, what is that? But here's my question though. Like, we know what early access means on Steam. What does it mean on PlayStation though?
Yeah.
Like, I mean, technically every game is early access in the age of being able to download, a patch every day. But I mean, is it really like an extended beta like it works on Steam? Like, I don't understand what that's going to be. Like, that is very crazy to me.
Yeah, this is like the first time, especially officially coming from PlayStation, then be like, this is an early access thing. Because again, the last time I saw it was with Fortnite, and it was early access in Fortnite on PS4. So that's why I was like, but that was like the only time when I really thought about it, because I saw more people asking about the early access. So
yeah, I don't. Yeah, I saw that. I was like, did I just see that? Like, I did not know that was a thing. So that'll be interesting to watch too.
Yep. So early access for Towers of Agrabah coming. I got Agashba coming in November 2024. Then we got a little Fortnite segment where they announced that they're doing split screen for Lego Fortnite, and they also announced a rather ugly looking DualSense with all the art there. So yeah, that's for Fortnite. I'll say this: I play more Fortnite than I dare admit. That's what I play with my brother and my sister. They're so into Fortnite that I'm like, I'll play it with you, and I have found my fun there with that.
Hey, are you playing no build mode or are you playing regular?
No build mode, absolutely.
Yeah, no build's the only way to go, man.
Yes, but build mode, I'm like, the controls are too complicated. It feels like I need a mouse and keyboard for this. It's like, I like playing no build mode. It's like, I feel the community that has formed around no build mode is really fun to play against. So Fortnite's a pretty good shooter now. I used to hate it. I really hated Fortnite back in.
Well, it was popular to hate it for a while too, because everybody's like, "Oh, it's the death of real gaming." But, you know what?
Exactly, but I hated it more for the fact that it was so popular, and I felt it played like ass. I was like, I feel like I play better shooting games, and now their shooting is good. So it's like they have really like fixed the things that I didn't like before. So I'm like,
I may have to just bite the bullet, pardon the pun, and get in there and at least check out maybe the Lego part of it or something, because I love the Lego games, and I don't know, man. But I'm not an online shooter guy. I suck at it, so it'll be interesting to see.
Yeah, if you like Minecraft or Minecraft style like games where you lose yourself in like constructing and all that, Lego Fortnite is that. And the fact that it has a racing game from the they added a Fortnite racing thing.
I saw that,
from the guys that made Rocket League, and also the Rock Band guys did like the Fortnite festival thing. If you're like down for like a old school like Guitar Hero, if you ever did that, they have that too. It's like Fortnite is such an interesting thing. Right now they're doing a Marvel season, and that's why my brother, my sister specifically, she still loves Marvel. I don't as much. But
she's the last one. Okay, got it. Good.
So she's like, my brother still likes Marvel enough, but it's like we have lost our fandom for Marvel for a while, because like
a lot of people have. It's been tough to hang on to that.
Yes, but I did buy some skins. I was weak.
Hey, you're all gonna get caught in the end. You might as well just give in to it.
Oh yes, and we found like some loopholes to get him for 200 V-Bucks each, which is less than $5. So
there you go.
It was funny. So, and then moving on from Fortnite, we got Dynasty Warriors Origins, which was announced at the last State of Play. He got his release date on January 17th. The release date that, in hindsight, looks even better now, considering so many games are coming out on February 28th. And then Monster Hunter Wilds, the game that just won't stop showing up and every showcase imaginable.
It's everywhere, man.
Like, so it feels
Monster Hunter's gonna take over the world.
Oh yeah, I was telling a friend, it's like World sold 20.6 million copies.
Yeah, that's insane. Thinking of everything Capcom's ever done, and that's its best-selling franchise.
Yeah,
it's just mind-blowing to me.
Because it was like it caught so hard for the mobile kids, and then translating that for the big console was like a good translation. And so this is directly the sequel to World that was so popular. This thing's gonna be huge. this feels like we're seeing a meteorite that is gonna hit right when it hits on February 28th. It's like it's not like when Elden Ring was coming in that felt like a nuclear bomb that was hidden and suddenly exploded with like how popular that ended up being because it was like so out of nowhere. But this is gonna be one of the biggest games of that year. Yeah, and that's just a lot considering GTA 6 is supposed to be also out this year.
Well, I mean, literally everyone is fighting and clawing for second place at this point. We all know that. You know, unless GTA 6, God forbid, gets delayed, you know, everyone's going for second place. We all know that.
Yeah, and I can't wait because I really like World. That's the one that clicked for me. I haven't I reinstalled it. I can be like, kind of want to get back into like the mood of this. Like, there's something addictive about monster hunting in that one.
Yeah, sure, of course. I mean, it's if you think about it, it's kind of its own version of Souls likes, right? Because you got the giant bosses, you know, and like a co-op version of taking down the bosses in a Souls like. So yeah,
Miyazaki from Software said that his inspiration was Monster Hunter. There's so many weapons from Souls like that animate the exact same way as Monster Hunter. So it's like, and even Bloodborne, the shifting weapons and all that, that's straight up from Monster Hunter. So it's like there's like Monster Hunter is a big deal. There's a reason why it keeps being shown, and at least now we know they released it, so we don't have to see it again.
Let's hope. Yeah, let's hope.
So and then November 14th, we're gonna get a Lego Horizon Adventures, the Lego game from Horizon. One of the I still don't understand what inspired them to do a Lego version of this game, but at least the deluxe edition lets you dress Aloy as Sackboy, as
I'll tell you what, to me, this makes more sense than a Horizon or a Zero Dawn remaster.
Yes,
because you at least know what they're going for. They're trying to broaden the appeal. They're going to put it on Switch. I mean, this is them trying to take some of their IP and put them on other consoles. And Absolutely. I totally get that. If I was them, I would do that with Nintendo before I would do it with Microsoft for sure. 100%. It makes more sense. It's not going to be for me for whatever reason. I love Lego games. I love the humor.
Yeah.
But it just that whole trailer was just grating on me. I'm like, oh God, this sucks. The narration was awful. The comedy. I'm like, oh, please stop.
Yeah, it's like the Lego humor is so specific that I felt it was like try hard Lego humor that was not.
It definitely felt try hard. Yeah,
yes,
it did.
It's not as smart as like the Lego movie. That it was like a shockingly smart. Or even the Lego Batman movie that had in stitches, but. The deluxe edition
Lego games were much better when they didn't have voices too. Once they started having voices, they jumped the shark. But the games before, when they were just like and making noises,
the pantomimes were great. Yes.
Yeah.
The deluxe edition gets you Sackboy outfit, Ratchet outfit, a Rivet outfit, and other 3 outfits from Aloy if you want that. And then immediately we're like, we got more Horizon for you. And then they finally announced the worst kept secret that the remaster.
Most definitely the worst kept secret ever.
Yes, the remaster of Zero Dawn is coming out on October 31st. If you own the game on PS4, you get a $9.99 upgrade fee, kind of like the Last of Us Part 2 remaster earlier this year. So it's like
that is how every one generation leap for a remaster should work. If it's more than one generation old, I'm fine with that because there's going to be a leap that makes it worth 40, 50, maybe not 70. But if you're talking about from one generation to another and it's already available on the console, $10 should be the absolute most you're asking people who already own it to pay. So I was happy to see that, even though we don't freaking need it.
Exactly.
I'm happy to see that. And it does look good. I'm not going to lie. It looks good.
And the thing is that I got to see the comparisons and it's like, work was done. I cannot come and be honest and be like, say that work has not been done. It's like, they did put the work to make the game look like Forbidden West, which was indeed a leap in quality, especially in facial animation.
Oh yeah, Forbidden West is one of the best looking games I've ever seen, and it's so good. It plays so well and it looks so good. So yeah, if they bring that up to that quality, I'm okay with that. But again, it's still just a one generation leap, right? You release this on PS4, it's now PS5. Give your people a break, and they did. So
exactly. So it's like, and again, I feel that the icky thing here is the fact that. When are you doing Bloodborne? Why are you doing other games? It's like, why is Horizon again? Like the fact that this is happening next to the Horizon Lego thing. That's why there's the joke that this is like Sony's industry plant. They're just trying to like force it. But I am the problem for $10. I'm gonna play it now that Assassin's Creed Shadows is out. If Dragon Age doesn't hit, I'm such a trophy hunter that I'm like. I've been wanting to revisit the original game for a while, and I was like, okay, I have that reason to do this and Forbidden West back to back again. So,
do you think the Days Gone remaster is real?
I hate to think that it is.
And I know, I really don't want to either, but I think now here's the thing: I have not gotten mad per se at any of Sony's remasters, but that one is going to annoy me. and pissed me off, because you can make the argument that you're doing a remaster to help people who are new to your studio get used to the game and get used to how you build that game, and there's something else. Just releasing a redo of a game that runs perfectly well on PS5 already as a remaster, when there's nothing behind it, when that franchise is dead, there's no reason to do it. So that's the first where I'm going to be like, you know what, screw you, Sony. That's just a money grab. And I don't want to feel like that, but it's true.
Thank you for saying that, because that's the thing that would annoy me with a Days Gone remaster, considering we know publicly that they old gel or Days Gone. They said they're not doing a
absolutely.
sequel.
There is no way you're getting anything. You might get, maybe they're going to bring Deacon into something else, although, we saw how that went with Astra.
I know.
Like maybe there's life for some part of that franchise, but we know there's no 2. We know there's not another game in that series. So, do not do that.
Yeah.
Like,
I would love, no joke, the only reason why I would love for that remaster to happen, because I would love to read John Garnett's reaction to it. That would be like,
dude, I think his head might explode.
Yes.
I think he might go live on X and just explode.
Exactly.
That would happen.
That would be like the only reason why I would love it, just for the chaos of it. But I would say, like, even then, like when you put Horizon and Days Gone as they are on PS4, like on PS5, Days Gone actually like looks better than Horizon. It's kind of like Days Gone put a band put a lot of work to make that game feel so transformed on the PS5. In fact, I was like,
I want to check it out on PS5 for sure and see.
Highly recommend it. Absolutely highly recommend it. It's like the reviews of that game were of a very buggy version that game was not.
That game got so screwed by the review cycle, 100%.
Yeah, so it was like it's like you would read the review and play the thing that is on PS5. It's like night and day. So it's like there's a legit good game there. It's just like the circumstances screwed it, and
no doubt.
And kind of like I said, it's like they already had their zombies game, and they put it on. They put it on over on for Last of Us. So it was supposed to be a placeholder, and it took so long. So
it did. Yeah.
Then Stellar Blade got an update for the Gooners. They can finally like use photo mode. Yeah.
Oh Lord, like the ultimate gooning game just got a little goonier. Yeah, I know.
Yes, but the thing that excited me the most was the fact that they're doing a crossover with Nier Automata, which is like what's so funny about Stellar Blade is that a lot of the criticism about that game is that this feels like we got Nier Automata at home, because it's trying so hard to be Nier Automata, trying to hit the same vibes. They had the music guy that did Nier also, so it was like there was such Nier energy to that game. That the fact that now they're able to do a crossover is like the ultimate crossover, because it's like now that the game that they were trying to ape a lot, it's like now they're crossover. I wonder if the crossover is just the fact that you can play as Eve dressed.
I was gonna ask, is there anything more to it, or is it just a character swap?
Yeah. Here's the thing, I wouldn't mind if it's just a character swap, because it would feel like I'm playing a Nier sequel. Like if it's that, like Stellar Blade it was a pretty good game. I reviewed it. So
I enjoyed it. Absolutely. It was one of my favorite games of this year, without a doubt.
Yeah, it's such a great like action game. It's like such a great.
If you're not trying to get anything more out of it than just an action game, I mean, the story was it was okay. It wasn't great.
Exactly,
but,
especially because
it was a fun game to play.
Yeah, it was so redundant on the fact that if you play Nier, you've heard that story, that you heard a lot of that story.
Exactly. Yeah.
So
and I didn't, but I heard those comparisons. So yeah.
So that would be kind of maybe an interesting thing. I want to see maybe if they put more of the Nier story in this crossover that kind of like teaches it more, or if it's just kind of like a visual look about it. Yeah. Regardless, it was like the moment I heard the Nier, I immediately recognized. I was like, "There's no way they're doing the crossover." Wow, they actually did it. So
yeah.
Then we
Side note, did you go to any of the streaming services and see the soundtrack yet?
I have not.
I went to Amazon Prime Music and went and looked up the soundtrack. There's 160 tracks in that OST. Like,
makes sense.
I knew there was a lot, because obviously it's playing throughout the game nonstop, but I had no idea it was 100. I mean, some of them are probably 30 seconds, but still, that's insanity.
Do you know how many tracks are in the Rebirth soundtrack?
More than 160, I'm guessing.
400.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah, that game is insane in music.
Wow.
It's a musical it's a musical powerhouse. So,
sure.
Yeah, an excellent soundtrack too. The Rebirth and Stellar Blade soundtracks right now are top soundtracks of the year. Yep. And as Astrobot, I have to give it Astrobot too.
Astrobot is so good, dude. It's so good. Yeah. The voice work and the music. I mean, everything. Everybody talks about the music, but the voice work and just the voice work inside the music. It's so well done.
Oh yes, yeah. That robot, like it's just so cute. It's so adorable. Like that robot. We are Astrobot. Like in that in that song. So it's that voice that makes it feel nostalgic for some reason. It's like, why am I
Yeah.
feeling nostalgia about robots that I just met? But it has that vibe.
Did you let the tree sing its song?
Yes, I did. I
Oh, that
did.
was my
And then
favorite part. I
yes, and
love
then I
that.
watched it and got a trophy. So
Yes,
yes,
yes.
and then we got updates for what's coming for PS Plus in October. So like, if
Yep.
you're on the in the basic PS Plus, you're getting NBA 2K24, which I heard from the people that play it was like a solid version of WWE 2K 2K.
Yep.
The Dead Space remake, which was excellent,
Yes,
that
I'm
came out
excited
early
for
last
that.
year. If you
Yep.
haven't played it, absolutely play it. And also Doki Doki Literature Club, which I've heard is one of the most interesting
It
stories.
is so good, dude. You
Yeah.
have to, if you can go into that blind, do
I'm
it.
blind. Yeah, I'm
Yeah,
blind. I
you
only know
definitely
it gets weird. I only know it gets
download it,
weird.
and it is
Yeah.
so good, man. It is a
I'm in.
complete
I'm all
mind
in.
screw. It's
I'm
awesome.
all in. I'm all in
Yeah,
for that
it's
one. So,
fantastic.
and then for the premium tier, the what we mentioned, the Blood Omen Legacy of Kain is coming in. That's like so obtuse, but at least I'm glad the original one of those would be
Yeah.
like
Yeah, it's
available
good to have it.
somewhere. And Dino Crisis. So it's like, okay,
I
is
thought I
this
heard them
something?
say that. I'm like,
Yes.
really? Okay.
I was like, okay, Capcom has like not done anything with Dino Crisis. This is a way for them to slowly reintegrate Dino Crisis, because eventually they'll run out of Resident Evil games to remake. But then there's Dino
Didn't they make
Crisis.
Dino Crisis? It was called Exo Primal. I mean, come
Yeah.
on. Hello.
Yeah, but Dino Crisis was the dinosaur Resident Evil. It was
Oh yeah.
literally
Oh,
Resident
absolutely.
Evil.
That game is still like tops of so many people's lists.
So whenever that Dino Crisis remake is made, it's gonna blow up. I tell
Yes. Yes. If they ever do it, absolutely.
you. Yeah, and then they announced also that for PS Plus on the 26th, which is when this episode goes live, if you have not bought The Last of Us Part 1 remake, they're adding it to the games catalog for first party, which is like, it's weird they don't add games that often to that catalog,
Right.
because they know
Yep.
they sell them. So
Yeah.
they probably already extracted everything they want out of Part 1. So if you haven't played it, this was one of those that was like, in paper was like unnecessary because the remaster was playable, but then when you played it, it's like the uniformity you get between Part 1 and now the part and Part 2 is like,
Yeah.
it was,
Well, and they did a good job with that new mode. I mean,
Yes.
there was good stuff in there. Like, it was
Especially
more
in
than
the Part
just
2 remaster.
let me just crap out a better looking game. You know, they did
Yeah.
a really good job. But yes,
Yeah,
it
but-
does help with that uniformity.
yes,
I
but Part
actually
1,
still prefer the original,
the
the
original
look of the
look.
original.
Yeah.
I mean, but that game meant so much to me, and still to this day
Mhm.
does. So I mean, I'm always going to prefer the PS3 mode or the version, regardless. I mean, I know, yes, objectively it looks better. I know there's a lot of improvements, but
The
man,
level
that's
design is
just so classic to
PS3.
me.
That's the thing. Like, when you know that the game was originally built for the PS3, the look of the PS3 makes more sense than the look of the remake. But if you want that visual uniformity, if you want to do like, let's play both these games back to back, it's like you're playing like one massive game.
Absolutely.
Now at this point.
Yeah.
So,
No doubt. I'm glad that they did it, but
yeah. It was still one of those like, man, it falls in that, yeah, it's like, if you had put this energy for even older stuff that needed it. So it's like, but it was done for the sake of the TV show, because they wanted like a new thing to be there for the people to be like, oh, I watched the TV show, this is from a game, I want to play the game, where I can play the game. Oh, I see that it has a shiny new PS5 look for that. So that's
maybe we'll get a reveal of Last of Us 3 next year for season 2. You never know.
We might as
I
well
like that synergy. We'll see.
Yeah, I know that season 2, 3, and 4 will come. They say that they can extract 3 seasons out of the second game, which I totally believe.
They certainly can, yeah, depending on how they do it. I'm not sure you can follow the exact same plot and get 3 seasons out of it.
Yeah,
regardless of how divisive that plot is and how that's going to land with a TV audience. I'm not sure. I think you have to mess around with it, but based on what we learned about the filming schedule and when it was done and everything, I'm not sure they're going to change it. It feels like they're just going to go straight through.
Yeah, they with the flashback. It's like a game. It's a story that's like, it's traditional narrative, then was like out of order, and with the flashback nature and all that, and like the different like other side perspective of things. Maybe the other season is about the other side. Who knows?
You could do that. I mean, you could do one perspective for one season, one perspective for the other, and then they come together. I mean, you could play it that way.
Yeah.
I don't know, man. That's going to be interesting. I'd like to see the reaction. It's funny because I wanted to see, other stuff like non-mainline story stuff in season 1, and they did a good job of that. I didn't love everything they did with it, but I thought the episode with Frank was fantastic.
The expansion of Pittsburgh was also excellent. Adding like
they did a good job with that. I like seeing more of those guys. I thought they did a good job. Almost all of it landed, so I thought they did a good job. So what I really love to see, and I don't think we're going to get it, but I would love to see some of the intervening 5 years between the two stories. I would love to spend, because that's what you lose, right? I mean, you lose you lose that relationship between Joel and Ellie, right?
Yeah.
No
It's like,
spoilers, but I mean, they literally didn't cover any of that. Boom, it's 5 years later, and you're in Jackson.
yeah.
So like, I would love to see some more of that because they're just so good together.
Yeah, I feel like they have enough. They could have enough material in those 5 years to make a season out of that. I feel.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Like
that would be insane, right? It's like, oh hey, the story you played in 2, yeah, that's in 3 years. Yeah, no, you're not getting that this year. Yeah.
But I'm also so curious just to see how the people react to season 2.
Yeah, man.
I'm so curious.
Man, there is gonna be some tweeting,
especially because the tiny tease that we got for that season 2, which was in the trailer for the last episode of House of the Dragon, is very Joel centric. So
it is
very interesting.
Yeah, I hope that's the way they go, man. I would love to see the Thing be the very end cliffhanger at the end of the season. That would be great. I would be okay with that. But if it happens, if they do, I just want to see how timeline.
I just want to see how soon it gets.
Yeah.
I just want to know that.
Yeah, I'm afraid. I'm very afraid.
Yeah, we're gonna reopen that wound again. I mean, I already reopened it with I reviewed the remastered earlier.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
So yeah, and then they announced new DualSense PS5 covers, which was like a chroma indigo blue, a chroma white pearl, and a chroma green teal.
Yeah.
If you like your shiny looks, it's like they got 3 variants, but I would say because they sell the controller separately, that old white one. Oh
yeah, you said in the Discord that you were gonna
that old white one is like because I had the old black one. I would love to have the old black one and the old white one because it's like the DualSense having that kind of like the black thing here at the bottom and the color at the top is like I would love this kind of like a uniform look.
Yeah.
So and for white, I love that. I bought that before I sold it. I had the Destiny all white controller that came in back in 2014 for the DualShock 4. So that's what I remind. But I also want the damn 30th anniversary thing that comes out tomorrow.
Yes, so it's like, tomorrow. I'm gonna be all over PS Direct, man. I'm trying to get one of those. I need a new one anyway because of course Sony does the modern thing and engineers their crap to fail with stick drift. Oh, yeah. But I'm in the tank. I'll do it. I don't know if I can get a hold of one. I will. Yeah.
I'm still deciding. It's like, do I want a Pro or not? Because speaking of the Pro, they gave us basically, someone made the joke that it's like, hey, they remastered the PS5 Pro presentation. So
basically,
because it was the Cliff Notes version of the Cliff Notes we got in the other one. That they were like, oh yeah, we're gonna show you some games that we had said were gonna be enhanced on top of other ones that we had not announced before. And initially I was like, oh, so they're gonna announce new games. And then it was like, oh no, it's gonna announce games that were not, they didn't say it that 2 weeks ago. So
enhanced, but not we didn't tell you about them yet. Yeah,
exactly. So a list of that games includes Final Fantasy VII Rebirth, Horizon Forbidden West, GT7, Stellar Blade, Dragon's Dogma 2, Jedi Survivor, Metal Gear Solid Snake Eater Delta, Resident Evil Village, Resident Evil 4, F124, Ratchet & Clank Rift Apart, Assassin's Creed Shadows, now delayed, and Spider-Man 2, and more were featured there. You can kind of like see the montage that also repeated a few games a few times. So it was like, oh wow, you repeated 3 times.
I noticed that. I thought I was seeing things, but it repeated Metal Gear
like
Delta
quite a lot,
twice at least. Yeah.
Yeah. So there's actually a preview beat when we're recording this, a preview beat of people that went to see the PS5 Pro like in person and play around with it. Beyond CNET, who were the first ones to actually see it. Number of people have gone and given their impressions, so you can go read and see if those impressions are worth the thing. To me, it's like everyone keeps saying the game that's the most improved from base PS5 to the Pro is Final Fantasy VII Rebirth, because that game on its performance mode, blurry.
I heard that was the case. Yeah,
blurry. Yeah. Eventually, like you could train your eyes to kind of get over the blurry, especially because they patched it. They added kind of like another mode that can make it like more sharp, but it like took out the anti-aliasing, but it was so blurry. But the graphics mode was so pretty, and now it's as good as the graphics mode running at 60 frames, and it's like night and day difference. I'm like, that is so tempting even for a game that already played 335 hours from. But it's like that's the
you're headed for 700 hours total, man. Start over.
Yes, so that's why I was like, I need to see like if I have the testicular fortitude for that by tomorrow. I want to just check. I'm gonna go to PS Direct. I want to see what the traffic is. I want to see like what if it's so easy to get, I'm gonna like sleep on it more. But if it feels like I'm gonna, we'll see.
Get that FOMO, man. Yeah, Sony's counting on the FOMO.
Yes, exactly. So, and finally, we got the next announcement from Sucker Punch. Finally, the sequel to Ghost of Tsushima, but not Ghost of Tsushima 2. This is Ghost of Yotei. because seemingly Sucker Punch has now decided that Ghost is the IP.
Yeah.
That's it. So now
It's not
using
Jin,
that,
it's Ghost.
yeah,
Yep.
it's like it's all more about the ghost instead of like the character. So they're moving away from Jin Sakai and the island of Tsushima, and they're going to Yotei, which is kind of like this other place within Japan that's like more mountainous and all that. And
From
I
what
would
I
say,
read, which was interesting, at the time that the game takes place, it actually was not part of Japan.
okay.
So it seems like it's people trying to get away from whatever Japan is. It was kind of like the wildlands, the badlands, because it's on the isle of what is now Hokkaido, which is now part of Japan, but that's where that mountain is. And so that's where they say, you know, people come here to disappear, right? That it was kind of one of those places you kind of ran away from Japan and went to this place. So that is going to be very interesting to see how this person goes from, you know, whatever they were running from to being a ghost. And what does ghost mean something different now? It'd be very interesting to see how Jin's legacy is going to play into that. I am super interested in how that's all going to play out.
I'm hoping that this is an Assassin's Creed 1 to Assassin's Creed 2 situation. If you ever played Assassin's Creed, it's like the hero of the original one, Altair, like its influence, like it's felt in the sequel, despite the fact that they're like years apart. You know, you can kind of like acquiring the armor from Altair as Ezio was kind of like a big element about it. I was like, if that's a way to kind of tie the games like years apart, kind of like as a legacy thing, it's kind of cool. And to me, that's the reason why I'm actually really excited for Ghost of Yotei, because we talk sometimes that there's games where you know that you're highly praised, and then sometimes you feel like you're an outlier that you don't feel as strongly as. I feel Ghost of Tsushima is that from the PS4 era Sony first party game. I feel it's the one where it's like, I love Horizon, I love Last of Us, I love God of War, I love Spider-Man. Ghost of Tsushima was the one that I was the most ambivalent, even though I played it, I finished it, I platinumed it, and I think it was more because samurais, it's not my thing. Let's say, like, it's just not like, in comparison to like, put me to the two open worlds that are basically Ubisoft open worlds, the sci-fi game of the cavemen fighting robots against a samurai game. I'm gonna lean more towards the sci-fi game with the.
I get it, but man, Ghost is so good.
And
I get it.
That's the thing.
Man, it's so good.
I'm ambivalent in the fact that I know a lot of people adore and have been like wanting the sequel for so long. That this one has been like, I'll play it when it's there. Because like I didn't really connect with Jin as a character, but I really connected with the world. I love that world was so beautiful. It was like such a, especially during COVID, when it came out, it was like getting to play a game that felt like such escapism and the beauty of the world, and it giving me an Assassin's Creed, the Assassin's Creed Japan experience when Ubisoft was not giving it. That's the thing that I connected to the most about that game. But it's like I didn't love it like I did the other exclusives. But the fact that now is a fresher start. It's like it is allowing me to approach this kind of like as a newer beginning, as someone that saw Tsushima as a great game that I played, I platinum and forgot. So it was kind of like one of those for me. So, but I assume for you it's the opposite. You love Tsushima.
I did. I really enjoyed it. I mean, it's not Last of Us level for me, but I mean, it is one of the best quality games that I've played. I thought the action was fantastic. I thought the story was fantastic. You got an open world where there was so much stuff to do. The duels where you're going and taking out all the guys in the individual combat and all the different parts of the world were some of my favorite parts. I mean, just the details of, you know, the blood and how it all worked and the different modes. I mean, I didn't play it in Kurosawa mode, and it looks like that's back from the black and white in the trailer. But I mean, they just did so many things that were just so well done. Like the fact that they nailed both sword combat and arrow combat, which I thought was just fantastic. I mean, stealth it was really well done.
Stealth worked really well too. Again, kind of like me, that I love Assassin's Creed. I love stealthing around and stabbing people in the back. It kind of gave me that. So that was kind of the thing, because I'm such a huge Assassin's Creed fan. It felt like I was playing a prettier first party level version of those games.
Right.
That's why, like, to me, the other first party games from like the portfolio were like more unique. Spider-Man, The Last of Us, the God of War, and all that. Though I know that like I saw this thing sold 13 million copies.
Oh, so, sure.
It was like it's like
it's a legit game. I mean, for a first generation title, not an established franchise. I mean, that was huge. So you knew they were always going to do a second game, but I mean, that's when see how it's going and not continuing Jin's story.
Yeah, that's what I knew when I saw that New York Times article that talked about this announcement that they had 13 million copies. I was like, yep, that's the end of Infamous. There's a reason why Infamous is out, because God,
you know,
why wouldn't you follow
here's
it
the
up?
thing. How do you think Infamous would be, not a remaster, but if they brought it back? Like, I don't think Second Son sold all that well. And we're in a post-Marvel world. I'm not sure how well an Infamous would be received right now. Not a new one. If you remastered one, I think that game is screaming for a remaster. That would be amazing. That game was fantastic. I never finished it, but that game was fantastic.
I highly recommend it. The story of that game is so good.
I definitely don't think you're ever going back. Like, honestly, do you want Naughty Dog to go back and make
Jak and Daxter or Uncharted?
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, well, no, Uncharted, yes, but the game is Jak and
Daxter.
I'm sorry, Jak and Daxter. There you go. Thank you. Brain fart. I mean, do you want them to go back and make one of those? I don't know.
Yeah,
I don't know if you do. It's like one of those careful what you wish for things, right?
Yes,
I don't know.
To me, it's more like the boat left the station, because I really appreciate how Insomniac, despite everything, they still kept Ratchet and Clank alive, but still doing other stuff.
Yeah.
So it's like I could have seen a scenario where, and I know Naughty Dog wanted to do that. They, before The Last of Us, they tried to bring
they
back
did.
Jak.
I remember.
That was part of like the developer, and then when they were like trying to see how they could like modernize Jak, and it was not hitting right, then that's when they were like, you know what? It's like our sensibilities are so different right now. I think we're not right for Jak right now.
It's not the same. It's not the same. Studio. It hasn't been since Jason and Andy left. I mean, that's just that they was a whole different generation.
Yeah, and Neil Druckmann is now it's now the head there. It's like that's the one thing that I kind of lament that Neil is the only one there, because like I really love the idea of them at the time. It was like they could do Uncharted, high frolicking and adventure. And then Last of Us, like something serious, more pensive, and all of that. Yeah. And then when Amy Hennig had to be like walked out of the building, basically, or what happened, I can't wait for the NDAs of that thing to like, because I think she's reaching a decade long since like the NDA. So I feel we're like ready to. I think I'm eager to hear her side of the story. Why was she pushed out? Like, what was the thing that like made her have to like be forced out of Naughty Dog? So it's like I like Uncharted for a lot as an end. But the tone of that game, I don't feel is the right tone for that series, like going forward. That kind of like more pensive melancholy of like no longer wanting to be going on that big high adventure. When before it was literally Indiana Jones, and you don't need like an Indiana Jones. But I was like, I gave it a pass on Uncharted 4, because it was like they said that it was the answer. It's like you ending it is like you can allow yourself something more serious in that one. But I'm dying for Naughty Dog to show the world that they have versatility. That it's not just sad. Well,
if you believe them, I mean, that's not far off. They have said there's multiple games in progress, and not all of them are The Last of Us. So I mean, we're gonna see something. I don't know if it's a brand new IP. I mean, somebody's making an Uncharted game. I mean, it's being made. It's just a matter of
Sony basically told us, like, if you go to the May financials where they had like a slide where they're like the franchises that we want to grow, that's when a lot of people started like believing that Astrobot was like coming back in the full game, because it wasn't that slide. It was like franchises we want to grow. Conquer was also in that slide hilariously, but they didn't know what's happening. But it's like Astrobot was there and Uncharted was there, so that's notable. And the big commercial they did in early 2023, when they did a big live action commercial that makes Spider-Man, God of War, and this chick that looked like an adventurer with a torch, like opening a chest, is like
Cassie Drake, man, all day long.
It's like they have a way to continue. And
that is ready made. Like, you don't even have to think about that, and it has to be in the works already. I mean, there is just, they wouldn't have made that. Like, sure, they can make a cliffhanger, or they can make a game that you could make a sequel to, and then times change and they're not going to make that. But there's zero reason not to revisit Uncharted. And this is actually the way to do it. Let the series rest for a while, bring it back. People won't get tired of it. The anti-Horizon that's going on right now, they're not tired of it anymore, and they're going to just clamor for it. That's the way to do it.
That's what's so wild, because it's like between Horizon Zero Dawn and Forbidden West, it was a good 5 years. So it's like, it's just everything after Forbidden West that feels like now they're like cramming it down someone's throat. Before, when I was like, Forbidden West was my most anticipated game going into 2022, because it was like so early, and I was so ready to go back to it. And I was also at the time being like, man, I know that first game got done dirty because it released next to Breath of the Wild, and I don't think they expected Breath of the Wild to become this like celebrated game of the generation, the greatest game of all time, which I vehemently disagree in that statement. I made that joke. I know, like, I'm with Ains on that one. But I love Tears of the Kingdom. That one I do agree deserves its place, but not Breath of the Wild. Breath of the Wild to me is massively overrated. But a lot of praise got that game that then Zero Dawn got buried. So when we got to Forbidden West, and I knew that Zelda was not around, so I was like, okay, this is the time. Now they will have their time now. I know Elden Ring's happening. At the time, I was thinking, Souls-likes are still so hard. They're a niche game. Now they have a chance.
Nobody could have seen that coming. I still don't understand how Elden Ring is so popular. Like, it's nuts.
And now look at the remasters launching the same day as Dragon Age. They're cursed. Horizon's just cursed. It's so funny. That franchise is a curse. But because it's so
and yet
cursed,
it's still done well. So,
yeah, it's still done well, and they throw it at you. It's just like it doesn't feel like a series worth the pushing as much as we do. Like Ghost of Tsushima, at the very least, like me, that I was a little bit more indifferent of that first one. It's been 5 years, and they're introducing me a sequel that feels like enough of a fresh start that I actually feel excited for the sequel. Like,
absolutely,
legit more. Like, if you had told me, the thing in this state of play, the announcement will be Ghost of Tsushima sequel, I literally would have been like, cool, like a shrug, because it's like, I know what it was. Like, I'll play it when it comes out. It's just not but then, like, when I saw that it's a different one, it's gonna be Western, like, because it's like they describe it as Western samurai. You're even gonna have guns.
Oh yeah, they said I read the blog post. 300 years later, so of course gunpowder is a thing now. You've got guns. I think that's good because you can have too much of a good thing, right? You know, swordplay is always going to be swordplay, shooting arrows. So introducing some different dynamic, I think, is a really good call.
And if the original game was like trying to vibe so hard into the Kurosawa style of samurai films, it's like now this feels like samurai western. Like, from like the establishing shot when she's like kind of coming into like whatever that bar or whatever thing is. The song choices. The look,
it's
like
gonna be interesting because there's gonna be some sort of musical component, or unless the little thing, the guitar on her back, maybe that's the version of the flute that Jin played. I don't know, but that features very heavily in the trailer. That same kind of guitar music is playing all the time. So I'll be interested to see how that goes.
So that's why I'm seeing is a completely different leap in a way that I'm like, I appreciate that they found that angle, because you know, I was kind of reading around that a lot of people, some are definitely disappointed that they're not continuing Jin's story, but if you really think about like where Jin's story ended, technically that's a good place to stop. Like,
it is, unless you're gonna have him go up against the
Mongol
Emperor, and you know, then what's gonna happen, right? I'll be interested to see what they have as the canon ending there. You know, who does he kill him? Does he let him live?
That would be
have a ton of impact on the story because Jin's not in it, but
it can be kind of hit maybe as like a passage of time that you heard the stories of the ghost, maybe because kind of like she's taking the mantle because they heard of the ghost, and then they learned that this was a ghost that let his uncle live or kill his uncle. Spoiler, people, sorry, something like that. And that's kind of like
the a very Black Panther thing where there's one ghost, right, and then just gets handed down from person to person, like that.
I would like that, and I feel it's especially if these sequels are gonna be like 5 years apart, because it's been 5 years since when this comes out. It's gonna be 5 years since the last one. It's like, this is how you continue a sequel while also not making it seem like, hey, you gotta play the original to kind of like understand it. I feel they hit on something here. So more excited. I'm more excited for Ghost of Yotei than I was. If this had been Ghost of Tsushima 2, I would be like, cool. Call me when it's out. Wake me up when it's out. I'll play it. I'll platinum it, and I'll go back and live my life. And now with Yotei, I'm like, especially now that AC Shadows has been delayed and now it's been put in the same year that this is supposed to come out. Oh man, I feel bad for AC Shadows, because it's like they waited so long to do the thing that people wanted them to do, and this was the franchise that did that for the people that wanted them to do that. So it's like, I feel this is a fall game, man. If somehow this is like first half of the year, that would be wild. If it's like first half, that would be insane. Like I wouldn't even been able to fathom that. But man,
it seems too early for a tentpole title. You know, Astrobot's one thing 3 months later, but I feel like they may have even announced it earlier than they wanted to because of all the pressure. But I don't think that's probably the case, because Sony doesn't seem to care about pressure right now. But I think they're probably going to be a fall game. I mean, I can't imagine you launching a tentpole title in a non-holiday or non-fall release window. It just doesn't seem to make sense.
But do you remember when Ghost of Tsushima released? It was in July.
Well, true, but was anybody expecting? I mean, do you really think you expected that? Granted, it was from Sucker Punch, but I mean, at that point in time, they were still, technically the Insomnia or the Infamous studio, right? Yes. I mean, at that point, so I'm not sure anybody really expected it to be a tentpole title. But releasing it in the summer isn't exactly a vote of confidence.
I know, and especially because this was also before the Last of Us leaks that painted the entire discourse in Last of Us Part 2 is like in a different light. And it was also kind of like, a lot of people were like, everyone knew that the tentpole game was Last of Us, and this was coming out after. So they were like, oh, does it feel like it's been sent out to die? And if it almost feels like inadvertently this felt like a respite for the people that had a problem with Last of Us Part 2. They found something to kind of like,
yeah, it ended up weirdly working out. Yeah, it did.
Yeah. So I don't know if that was a planned move, like making like making joke, but
dude,
hey,
what a story that would be. Sucker Punch sabotages The Last of Us Part 2 just to make their game look better. Wow.
But that's the thing, and that's why I always says, like, I feel like such an outlier because I know this is an adored, like, Ghost of Tsushima is so adored in a way that like it's user review scores were like significantly higher than it was like in the review scores. That was like an 83. When I played, I was like, yeah, that sounds about right, like what I think. But it's like, no, this is really loved, really loved. And like how much a lot of people were like, Sony, please give us this Ghost of Tsushima sequel. I was like, man, I guess. And I was like, I've been like, I think I should revisit it to see, maybe I missed something, maybe something, you're not in the right mind space for it, and then you'll probably
jump back into Ghost before Yotei comes out.
I will. Now, I have this thing, if a sequel's announced, that's like my card blank to I like revisiting my games.
Sure,
so.
I get it.
And that was the state of play. So
I think it was a solid one. I think it was well done. I think they ended obviously on a good note, so I was super happy with it.
Yeah, and the obviously Ghost of Yotei, your most anticipated thing out of the things that they announced, right?
Yeah, certainly. I mean, there's no question there. I'm excited for that. There are other games in there that I'm looking forward to and want to play, but yeah, that's definitely the one.
Yeah, to me is that Fantation and the whatchamacallit, the scary looking at the beginning, the
Hell Is Us. Midnight Walk. Yeah.
Okay, right. Then I would be like in between Midnight Walk and Hell Is Us. Like, there's interesting stuff that what I like PlayStation about. So
yes.
Now, to conclude us out, Brian, I'm going to read us the release dates for the next week. That is basically September 30th to October 5th, because we're in the middle of fall and it's like we're there now. So,
all right.
So coming out on September 30th, Starfield Shattered Space, the expansion for Starfield coming to PC and Xbox Series X and S. If you got the early access for Starfield last year, when they were like being like, you played it like 5 days early on Game Pass, that early access gives you this expansion for free, basically. So it's not gonna be a Game Pass offer, so you would have to buy it. But if you did that, you already bought this. So
if you're that much of a Starfield fan, you're definitely buying it. I mean, 100%.
Or you already bought it, basically, because a lot of people, there were a lot of people that bought early access for that one.
True, yeah.
Because it was 5 days. Then Batman Arkham Shadow, the MetaQuest 3 exclusive, that it's insane for me that it's not in PSVR 2, comes out in October 1st. It was like, why did it only say October here?
And I thought we were past the era of experiences, right? here's 30 minutes in Batman's cape. Like, okay, sure. Yeah.
Supposedly, people tell me Arkham Shadow is like some people played it. It feels like a legit game because the Batman Arkham VR was just an experience. That was like 2 or 3 hours. So the Batman fan base right now is in shambles because of Suicide Squad. And and be like, man, like they could have had another Batman game, and now they have another Batman game. Is MetaQuest exclusive. Painful. Then we got Predator Hunting Grounds. They're weirdly enough like that. The PS4 shooter's coming back now for PS5 and Xbox Series X and S on October 1st. Then we got this game Throne and Liberty coming to PC and PS5 and Xbox Series X and S on October 1st. Until Dawn, the remake, coming to PC and PS5 on October 4th. Yeah. That's super soon.
Yeah.
NHL 25 for PS5 and Xbox Series X and S also on October 4th. And then SpongeBob SquarePants, the Patrick Star game, the open world game where you play as Patrick Star, coming to PS4, PS5.
I had no idea that was coming out. Wow.
Xbox One, Xbox Series X and S in October. They just announced it. This is one of those like, it's announced, it's gonna come out soon. Yeah. I have a soft spot for some of these SpongeBob SquarePants platformers because they're so easy to turn your brain off like collectathons. It's interesting. This is a Patrick Star game that's like more open. I'm really curious to hear how that one goes. They did give the Cosmic Shake for PS Plus recently.
That's right. I heard that wasn't great though.
Yeah, it's okay. It's fine. Like it's like if you enjoyed Battle for Bikini Bottom Rehydrated, it's basically more of that.
Yeah.
You have to be in a specific mood, and the thing is that playing that next to Astrobot harder to do when you know what quality is.
No doubt.
I'll definitely be trying the Shattered Space expansion because though Starfield was my most disappointing game from last year, it's still kind of like come from a disappointment of I still put 100 hours into it. Because I want it. That's a game I wanted a lot. I love space.
Part of you wants to go back and see what's changed since you last, played it. I get it. I do.
And the patch from May 15 that added 60 frames on Xbox fixed a lot. Did quite a lot, and be like, this is getting there. This is finally getting where it needs to be. There's quality of life.
You could play the best version of Starfield, which is called No Man's Sky. You could do that. Just kidding.
Especially
Sort
now
of.
with everything that they added with No Man's Sky.
Oh yeah, No Man's Sky is ridiculous. I played it. I wrote a huge article about it in 2023 when I went back to it, or went to it for the first time. And I mean,
you would
it's
have to
just so
update it
good.
now. You have
It's
to update
so
it
good.
now because it's like the things added this year was even.
Oh yeah. Oh, I mean, it's you can't keep up. I mean, you have to keep. It's almost a live service game basically.
Oh,
it's
yes.
just nuts. It's
It
so good though.
Is. It absolutely is. And what's funny is that why people are excited about Starfield Shadow Space, the fact that it's gonna be an anti No Man's Sky because it's all about just one area. Because it's like
true.
they like Bethesda didn't nail the procedural generation of the 1,000 planets.
Yeah, it did not land like they wanted it to.
Yes, they want more than do a specific place where you're curating everything. When curation, you're good. So let's see how it lands. So
hey, before I forget, not this week, but last week, did you play Plucky Squire?
The Plucky Squire, I did a little bit.
You like it?
I think I need to play a little bit more. Like when I played it, I was like, I'm not sure about this. It's like
very simple. It's very kid game-esque, you know, but I really like it. I just like the fact that you're going in and out and it's 2D and 3D. I think it's charming as hell. Like
that's the thing that I like.
I love it. It's a good. I think I'm almost at the very end. And I mean, it's a good 6 or 8 hours, and it's just fun and charming. Like I don't think it's going to overstay its welcome. And you know, the dialogue's a little iffy, but I mean, it's fun. It's cute. It's a good, you know, game. Like it's a good wash your eyeballs out if you're playing something, you know, like horrifying or like, you know, bloody or something, you know, just go fire that up. And it's different, but it's really good. Yeah.
My thing is that I feel like me trying Plucky Squire happened with me replaying Ragnarok. So it's like sometimes when I'm already like so laser focused on what I want to play, is like
some people like to bounce between things like that. Sometimes
I do that sometimes if something's not hitting, I like bouncing, but if then I'm like laser focusing on something, it's like I rather kind of see it through. I still have it installed.
It hit perfectly for me right after Astrobot. I mean, that's
you're in that mood.
Second take, 100%. But I'm a 2D platformer guy, like hardcore, or 2D or 3D. So I mean, that's like the perfect 2-game stretch right there for me, anyway. But I can always play a platformer. That's like, you know, brain candy for me. Like I just, like you said, turn it off and just go collect stuff. And I mean, those games are awesome. I love
them as podcast games. It'd be like, it's like I'm gonna shove my brain out into collecting all this stuff and enjoy kind of the visuals while I'm catching up on the million different podcasts that I subscribe, including my own that I do. So, Bryan, that brings us to the conclusion of this week's episode of the X Button. Where can people find you?
Well, find me over at Super Jump magazine. It's superjumpmag.com, or you can, superjump.com, or over on Season Gaming. And that's pretty much it, because I try to stay off Twitter if I can help it.
Oh, absolutely. Especially right now, stay out of there until at least November 6th.
Yeah, absolutely. Do not go anywhere near it unless you just want to be mad, which is okay too. You know, anger is an emotion. It's okay to have that.
I can already tell you.
Don't post.
Yeah, I can already tell you. There's a lot of people already having bad faith arguments about Ghost of Yotei, or what they call it, Ghost of Wokei. So,
oh boy.
So you already know where we're going with that. So
you cannot have a female protagonist, man. I'm sorry, it just can't. It does not fit my worldview, and I won't allow it. You know, whatever.
Yes, it's like people really need to get over themselves. Yeah. Like for real.
Go yell at clouds, man. It's okay. It's okay.
And you can find me at _Dorsey on Twitter, because for some reason I'm still there, retweeting and sometimes doing stuff. I'm on Threads at Alejandro93, and then you can find my written content, my current written content, at seasongaming.com, where you can read my reviews for The Last of Us Part 2 Remastered, Grand Blue Fantasy Relink, Skull and Bones, Final Fantasy VII Rebirth, Final Fantasy 16 The Rising Tide, TMNT Mutant Arcade Wrath of the Mutants, which I hate, Stellar Blade, and Star Wars Outlaws. What my next review will be is still to be determined. I don't know.
Hold your breath, man. Yes. You got it coming.
I don't know what will be the next one, because I'm like, what do I really want to review? Like, because I don't know. I'm gonna review. I don't know if I can do Dragon Age. I think someone else wants to do Indiana Jones. Assassin's Creed Shadows was gonna be Ains, and that punted. Maybe Sonic X Shadows. I don't know. We'll see.
How much do you hate yourself? Like, you know, what are you gonna do?
I loved Sonic Frontiers, despite I know that game has significant problems. So it's like
you were the one guy that liked it. Okay, yes. Good. Yeah.
But I really did enjoy Frontiers while hating almost 20 years of 3D Sonic games. So it's like that was one that was like, okay, you finally got a good one. You got something good here, but you still got work to do. Sonic Generations was good back in 2011, but I do
need to play that. I downloaded it, I bought it. I just need to play it.
Yeah, at this point, just maybe wait for the Shadows Generation Remaster, because maybe we'll make it play better.
You never know.
Yeah, but we'll never know with Sonic, because Sonic is so inconsistent. But the movies are good somehow. I don't know how that happened.
I might have to, like, just, you know, turn my brain off and watch one of these days. I'm not sure I
Yes.
want to, but I might just have
If
to.
you enjoyed old school Jim Carrey,
Yeah.
that's gonna give you old school Jim Carrey, kind of like
That's true.
kind of like Ace Ventura Jim Carrey, Liar Liar Jim Carrey, like his manic stuff. Like they managed to do that. So as a vehicle for Jim Carrey again, playing with furry characters, like they made it work.
Jim Carrey, the furry lover. God knows that's where we are these days. Yes.
So yeah, well, and so that was it for this episode. I want to thank you so much to everyone listening or watching. If you like what you watch or listen, give us a like and subscribe, or share, or leave a comment, or tell us what you liked or you didn't like. And we'll see you next week. Paul will be back, same time, same channel. Enjoy the rest of the fall now because we're in it now. Stay safe if you're in the Hurricane Elena's or Helene's vicinity. If you're listening here, or at least Brian, just stay safe in particular.
Totally safe.
Yes, and play games and press X to play. Hasta la vista, baby.